Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Thursday, June 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Bellingham Planning Board. The first item this evening is to continue public hearing on the project for North and Blackstone Street. I'd like to have the applicant come up. They can provide us with an update of where they are. Can you introduce yourselves?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Falk from Irica O'Connell, representing the applicant. With me from Derek Holland, Amanda Cavallari, and Mike Hatzett, our engineering team. So in terms of
It should be consistent.
no relation,
There's no relation. He works for a firm with my last name, but there's no relation. Go ahead.
So in terms of an update, we had our community meeting with our neighbors on June 14th last week from 6 to 8 at the library. We mailed notice of the meeting to everyone who was on the abutters list. We had about 30 people in attendance, about 28 names on our sign-in sheet, and a few others who may not have signed in but attended anyway. One of our attendees video recorded the meeting to share with some of the neighbors who weren't able to attend. So at the meeting, we unveiled revised plans with our neighbors for the first time. We're going to pull those up now to Mike, if you don't mind. That's our overall site. The green, dark green representing the open space we're keeping, and the lighter green, the original development site. Want to flip Mike. That was our original proposal, 36 units over 18 buildings. 2 bedrooms each, access on North Street and on Blackstone Street. The next one. This is an aerial view of what would be our reduced scale project. In presenting with our neighbors, we heard a number of concerns that they brought up, some concerns we've heard before, some newer ones. And I just wanted to walk you through briefly the concerns that we heard and how we think this plan and some future plans that we have will address those concerns.
Okay.
So in terms of density, I think we've responded well. We reduced the scale by about half. I know some would prefer to see just 4 single-family homes here or nothing at all. But we're here in an application for a townhouse community. And I think in terms of a townhouse community, this is a much better version and a much better fit with the existing site and with the neighborhood. Just for context, the Linda Way community, which is just up the road, has 18 units. This will have 21. In terms of bedrooms, we're probably going to have about half, because the Linda Way community is primarily single family homes, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. We're only having 2 bedroom two bedrooms each. So we're roughly the same number of units, about half the number of bedrooms. So in terms of impact, I know they're not on the exact same street, it's a different community style, but overall, in terms of population, our site would be less. And in terms of traffic impact, I think you can look at Linda Way in terms of what is the traffic impact of that community. I think most would say it's negligible and not noticeable. We think ours would be about the same. And ultimately a 4 single-family home lot layout, which there is an A&R plan in place on this property for such a layout. We think that would overall have a greater negative impact on the environment of this site. Those houses will be spread out across the site to comply with the existing zoning. That would result in more trees coming down to accommodate driveways, leach fields, houses, etc. We think this proposal, which is limited just to the existing field, ultimately will have a better environmental impact for the site. We've heard concerns about traffic, both concerns about the impact of traffic from this site and existing driving conditions in the area that predate us. As I mentioned, 21 units, I think it's comparable to Linda Way in terms of overall traffic impact in this neighborhood. You'll note we've removed access onto North Street. There was a concern raised by some neighbors and the police department that was not a great access point to North Street. That's gone. We're only going on and off of Blackstone Street. We will be asking our traffic consultant to provide an updated traffic study with this reduced scope and with the access only off of Blackstone Street. But we're also going to ask our traffic consultant to come up with some ideas for traffic calming measures in this area. This is a road that has been developed over the decades, but I don't think anyone has really taken a professional look at it in quite a while. It's an older road. We know there are some existing challenges with it, but with some traffic calming measures, we're not talking about widening or major changes, but some traffic calming measures, speed alert signs, stop signs, other types of things that you can do that may actually have a significant impact on existing conditions, not to mention the impact from our project. And so we're looking to have our traffic consultant give us some ideas. We're also welcoming input from the town's peer reviewer when this goes out to peer review in terms of additional traffic calming measures that might help make things better for everyone in this neighborhood. We heard some concerns that some of the houses on this stretch of roadway have their mailboxes across the street. May have to cross the street to get their mail, which is not ideal. We can't promise anything, but we're certainly willing to reach out to the post office on behalf of the neighborhood to see, with our project coming in, what changes might be able to be made to try to help mitigate that situation. We're also looking forward to discussions with the fire department on access. There's obviously a different access plan than they have seen previously. I'm aware that the fire department typically wants to see more than one means of access and egress. This is obviously a cul-de-sac. We think a smaller project, it's less of a concern, but there is room here. It's not shown on this concept plan, but there is room here to do essentially a boulevard style divided median where you would have entrance in, exit out, and that in the event of an emergency, there would at least be a divided area where emergency vehicles could come in. So we're open to those discussions. There's room for that. It's not on the plan now, but if that's something the fire department thinks would be helpful, it's something we can probably accommodate. We heard concerns from our neighbors about water runoff in the area. Obviously, the site currently has no stormwater measures whatsoever. We've designed the site's drainage system to handle the water that comes onto the site, as well as water that will potentially run off the site. That should address existing conditions that some people have mentioned in terms of seeing water in the field now. That will obviously change with the development site. We're aware of that, and we would be mitigating that for the benefit of the project. Neighbors have raised some concerns about water issues on their own properties off-site. We're not aware that our project would have impacts in one way or the other on that, but we're welcome to input during peer review if there are things that we can do to alleviate concerns that people have. Obviously, our engineers are confident in their design, but again, town peer reviewers will likely come back with suggested drainage improvements, and we're open to those additional ideas. We heard some concerns about our septic design and leach fields. As I mentioned, we've got one leach field that's shown on the field. There would be a backup leach field of equal size just to the left of it. That's just going to be grass area right now, look like open space, but that's where our septic leach fields would go. Obviously, we're comfortable that the design is appropriate, but the Board of Health is going to review our plan and they're going to have input there in approving the septic system. On water supply, we heard differing opinions from our neighbors in terms of our plan to use town water versus whether wells would be at the site. Obviously, people with existing wells have some concerns that if we have wells, it's going to impact, their wells. Folks on town water have concerns of, 21 additional units. What's that going to do to water pressure? Obviously, with this design, a looped water tie-in wouldn't work. Wouldn't be a loop design, and the water department obviously prefer that, but we're open to ideas in terms of if there are pressure issues that we would need to address, what we could do to assist with that. So we'll work with DPW on that. We have heard a concern that this project might have a negative impact on property values in the neighborhood. We're honestly not aware of examples in Bellingham or elsewhere where this size and scope of a project had a negative impact on surrounding property values. If there are examples, we're willing to look at them and take them into consideration. We're not aware of that. Overall, 21 two-bedroom units in a town of this size is not going to have an impact on overall supply in terms of values in the area. And we don't see new townhouses in this number in this neighborhood having a negative impact on folks' property values. We're open to hearing more about that, but we're just not seeing it. We heard some folks ask that we think about making the building look more in keeping with the neighborhood. Mike, can you just bring up the building design image? This is the schematic that we have. One of the limitations that we have is the bylaw requires that this is about the small size townhome community that we can have. We have to have at least 3. You can have more, but this is the smallest that we can have. So with a central unit, it's difficult to do much with the garage layout in terms of repositioning, but we're open to it. We've asked our client to take a look at alternate designs that might make this a better fit with the neighborhood. That said, given the reduced scope in the field area only and with significant screening along Blackstone Street, I don't know that this is going to have a tremendous visual impact on the neighborhood. You'll certainly see some portions of it from the road, but in terms of being right on the road and being contrasted with other homes in the area, I think the way we have it designed now, it will have a minimal visual impact on the area. We heard some concerns about lighting and light pollution. Any of our new lighting will be dark sky compliant. This will all be brand new lighting, unlike existing street lights and other lights in homes. Even within recent years, exterior lighting has improved significantly. So we have dark sky compliant lighting and with cutoffs. And again, with the existing screening and the new screening we're proposing, we think light spillage will be minimal. We heard questions about, like, you could put the aerial back up. Yep. We heard a question about the field that's off our property. Yep, that one right there. In terms of access, it's currently accessed through our property. We'll take a look at it to see if there are ways that we could accommodate that. It's not accessible other than through our property right now. So we will look into that in terms of whether we can accommodate that for residents who currently use that field. So in terms of next steps, I know we're not going to change everyone's mind on this plan, but I do know from our community meeting, we did change a few minds. Several residents came up to us and thanked us for the changes that we made and think that we're heading in the right direction. So at this point, we're looking to the board for board's feedback in terms of the changes that we've made and moving on to the next step in our review.
What I'd like to do, I'd like to break with tradition a little bit. I know usually the board asks questions at this point. What I like to do now is go on a trend a little bit and ask for the public. I know we've received some documentation so far. So I would like to ask the public to get up and speak. Let me tell you, we have letters from two people.
We had a letter that came in from Erica and George. And then we had one that came in from Christine and Todd.
Okay.
That's it.
The letter for Eric and George is part of the file. That's what came in from Christina. You want to stand up and give us an overview?
This had a couple of things. We did a recap of the community meeting. And there were
You
two.
took forward over the time to hear.
Okay. There were two items in the meeting that were also discussed. The homeowners association.
Oh, yeah.
If that, like, I believe in the past it was saying it wasn't, so is there gonna be a homeowners association?
Yes, these are units for sale, so these are not gonna be rentals, these are condominiums, and so there will be a homeowners association.
Okay. And then we also talked about the land to the west there that was not gonna be built. Would that then go back into conservation or a trust? So in the future, it would not be buildable by this community.
And we're looking into that. Obviously, we had talked about the parcel, so the yellow line there was, right, so we're talking about that area there, which was not originally part of the area that we're talking about for our conservation restriction. We're open to looking at adding that to it. We have no plans to develop it. If we did, we'd have to come back into this board for an amendment to the special permit anyway. But since we don't have plans to develop it, we will look into adding that to the area that would be subject to a conservation restriction as well.
And everything else we recapped. So everything else was listed in the letter that was sent.
Okay,
Thank you.
can I assume? Any other, yes, sir, gentleman in the middle?
Yeah, I still think it's too big. I think
Okay.
it'd be better at 5. How far off are those condos or townhomes, I'm sorry, near the road? How far off the road are those?
Well, yeah, that's a better plan to have. Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda can correct me if I'm incorrect, but I believe it's at least 65 to 70 feet off the road,
So-
off the right of way.
The unit to the left, this one right here, building 7, that's a 56 feet off the road. And then the building to the right is 69.2 feet.
Still pretty close because I bet you this room is about 48 feet. I'm gonna guess, just the
Okay.
length. So that's pretty close. I just think, again, I think I appreciate what they've done. I think they're making a really good effort and I hope they just listen to us a little more.
Okay.
I just think that it'd be better with 5 than the 7, because I think those 2 units are just too close to the street and change the whole look of it.
All right. Any other comments? Woman in the back,
So as he brought up, some.
you just stand up and
Oh, sorry.
say your name and address.
Terry Mazzagri, 254 Blackstone. So as he compared to Linda Way, and one of the big things that we were saying in that meeting was that you can't really compare Linda Way to Blackstone Street. You got Linda Way coming right off of North Street, which is a much wider street. Blackstone's a very curvy, windy street. And you can't, I'm concerned being fairly across the street from it, the traffic going in and out, especially on that curve. And having all the traffic now going in and out of one spot.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good Wyatt, 18 Stephen Road. 5 seems like a good number, but I think 4 would be even better. Because if you could just spread them out a little bit, take away the 3 in the front, I think it'd be a lot better and could widen actually the access for the fire trucks to get around if they need to get in there. And then maybe put like a little playground in that little circle area.
Anyone else? Now that we mentioned fire access, give the deputy chief here. What are your comments?
So we would like to see 2 entrances, an entrance and an exit,
Like a horseshoe?
to bring it around and make a horseshoe out of it, rather than the cul-de-sac in the middle. Allowing that would give you entrance on both sides, to reduce the traffic flow. It would help assist us going in, and a divided single entrance doesn't really help us in the event there's a fire and we have to stretch hydrant lines across the street. We block off any exiting from that. So having 2 separate and a separate entrance and exit, would be a better plan for us. As far as water and hydrants, you know, they're gonna have to bring in water. They're gonna have to have hydrants on that as well. And those are sprinkled buildings?
That I'm unsure of.
I don't believe they would.
That's something as far as the townhouses go. It would be something that we'd be looking for. You know,
Get them sprinkled,
correct.
several to what's being done if I'm getting.
Correct. They're the same thing, tripod, you know, a condo with three.
Yep.
Sprinkled.
Okay. I have spoken to Jesse of the DPW. He's indicated they will look at water volume. And for those neighbors that, live down the road on Blackstone Street, feel free to give him a call. About if you experience any specific problems with regards to water. You did do that offline with, each of you. I know some people further down Blackstone Street, across from North Street, have expressed a concern about water. Any other neighbors? Dennis?
Yeah, the side, you have a sidewalk here, it goes like halfway around the circle, does it just end at that spot?
Yes.
Why is that?
Subdivisions, of this size, typically we see the one sidewalk going up to the side. It's typically the residents within there that are walking on it, and they're gonna walk along the sidewalk. In that area, we've asked for waivers in the past to have one sidewalk going halfway up. Seen it standard for a lot of developments, but we can certainly look into it.
So the other 3 units don't have a sidewalk. And is that considered part of the driveway? I think it's 5 feet you're proposing?
5 feet and then a 22-foot drive width.
All right, so it's
27.
just looking like that, it's hot, you know. Trying to get all the way out to the road and just seeing it break there, that's all. And your distinction, see how it separates, it looks like the driveway's counted right to the street and not to the sidewalk. This is kind of hard to read.
I see what you're saying.
Which one is it? The driveway,
On where you have the sidewalk all the way around?
Yep.
So does that break up when it hits the driveway? Is that gonna be all concrete sidewalk, even at the end of the driveway there?
at the end of the driveway, I'd have to look at the Bellingham regulations to see if they have the concrete apron. Some towns have them, some towns don't. I'm not familiar. I can't recall off the top of my head.
And are you gonna have any off-street parking outside of the 6 visitors you have parking area? I know you're considering in your calculations, you're considering every unit, 2 cars in the driveway as parking.
Yep, and the garage.
Well, you consider the garage too, so
Yep, so the parking we have,
if I'm having a party, I have 2 cars, I gotta put them in the garage if I'm having someone over. I'm just wondering, you know, if come Thanksgiving, Christmas,
typical single-family units, I believe, have
Yeah.
what, 2
well,
parking
that's
spaces?
all I'm wondering, yeah.
Yeah, so each unit would have its own spaces. So they'd have 2 parking spaces designated for each unit, and then there's 6 visitor parking proposed.
All right, so that'd be for, all right, okay.
Yep.
But nothing will, no allowance on the street whatsoever, circle or anything, for visitor.
Not
That'll
proposed,
be
not,
prohibited.
not proposed parking, correct?
Okay.
I have a fire related question. With regard to one entrance and exit versus 2. You said that the fire, or that you have to run equipment across the lane. I think at the entrance, or for the first 2 units there. That would block the access point, is it?
Correct.
If those 2, let's say those 2 weren't there. Would you have similar concerns about blocking
you'd have access, for that, you'd have access either way for the other units. So eliminating those two units would mean that if we had a structure fire there, there would be nothing across. You'd have access out of the site. It, however, it does change that, again, we talked about the hydrant and the water supply and having a looped feed there rather than a dead end hydrants. So it's gonna help increase the water pressure and give us more water pressure in a looped system than it would if they dead ended that main. So having it the way it is, would only be one feed from Blackstone Street. As opposed to if it was a horseshoe, it would have two, so you'd have that loop main.
What's your thoughts about the sort of the boulevard concept of divided road in and out? If those first two units were moved or removed?
We'd still rather see two separate entrances if we, our recommendation would be for two separate. Similar to Linda Way, where you come around and it's a horseshoe style. They were referencing Linda Way, that makes it something similar to that, where it comes out. Maybe it's a one-way, goes in one way and comes out the other onto Blackstone Street. I think both traffic flow, emergency vehicles, as well as school buses, would probably make it safer.
I'm just curious from an engineering point of view, why can't it be moved?
So this one doesn't have the distance measurements on it, but there's, as far as the entrance and access, does the town have a specific requirement on driveway openings and how far apart they can be? Do you know, if there's a minimum, we will look, but if it's usually it's 150 feet from the nearest driveway. And Blackstone Street does curve. If you look at the plan right by the leaching area, the property line does curve. Blackstone doesn't go all the way down. So it's limited space in this area, as well as trying to minimize any type of impacts to the wetland resource areas abutting the property. As well, we're trying to minimize disturbance and minimize pavement also, from stormwater management standards. So the longer the road, more pavement you have, more stormwater you have to mitigate as well. And, again, we try to reduce any of the stormwater runoff on the site. So we're trying to minimize the pavement in the development.
What about the loop system?
For the water main?
Yeah.
Water main, we'd have to work with the DPW on that as far as the connection goes. I don't know if we could provide additional gates in the system and be able to connect it, to be able to have a backup or some sort of loop. It's really about spacing as far as the valves go and where they would allow us to do it. Obviously, originally when we had the first layout, we had the access point coming onto North Street, so we'd be able to do the tie-in and have that system to have that added benefit for the water pressure. Now we're trying to preserve the trees and the vegetation in this area for the abutters visual effect. So we'd have to go in and we'd have to cut trees down. We'd have to have probably a minimum of a 20-foot construction easement.
So the loop can't come in.
I don't believe so. I don't believe that's standard practice. But we can talk to the water department on
I like to revisit Dennis's point about the visitor parking. Single family homes, you made the comparison against single family homes. Single family homes usually have a lot of frontage and upon the part of town, 150 feet in front. So you get street parking and things like that. So I'm not thinking there's enough parking here as well. I think that's an issue. And as far as being able to see it down the street, I see the trees there. But I think those two up front are definitely going to be visual impact there. The other comment I had was in your presentation, you mentioned that density was about half of what it was in the previous plan. I think the previous plan, you had 12 townhouses with three separate, residents in each one of them, about 36 separate residents. And this plan looks like about 7 to, times 3 is 21, so 36 to 21 individual residences. And everything's more or less closer together right now. So I guess I was kind of interested if you could elaborate on the density. But I think I heard half of what the previous plan was.
Yeah, it's not exactly half, but it's, closer to half. But I agree, it's not exactly half. The idea was focus the development in the existing field, leave as many of the existing trees alone as possible. This plan accommodates that. It is less density in terms of the number of units on the site, obviously. We've got the development area more compact for, less environmental impact overall. Less overall impervious area, less stormwater to have to mitigate, and less impact overall. And ultimately, more than 2/3 of the site is going to be subject to a conservation restriction. You really, if you look at it, the view of the city from the road, it's going to be developed, and the rest of it will stay as is.
You mentioned the backup leach field. Where that you think the backup would be on the plan?
The concept plan.
So that's the reserve area. And that's standard design, in Title V, anywhere you have a leach area, you have to have a reserve, so in the event there's a failure down the line, you have, clean soils to be able to put that, so the septic system, the proposed septic system is shown here in the dashed line area to the south of the first unit on the left, to the west, and then there's, sufficient area to the left of that would be the reserve area. So it would be the same spot over here. So it would be this similar size as saved as reserve area that they wouldn't be able to build on and would stay grassed area.
And that would be shown on an updated site plan. This is a concept plan, just so we can talk about the reduced scope. We would obviously fill in, complete details on an updated site plan that we would submit to the board. That will be shown there.
And so the backup site is inside the field right now. So
Yes.
no impact at all.
Correct.
No building on top of it or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay, I thought I heard that you were saying, dropping it by half and didn't sound like it. So.
72 bedrooms down to 42.
Yeah, it's 58%, not 50%.
12 times 3 is 36. 7 times 3 is 21. Yeah. Quick math. Okay, it's still a decent site. Size. I guess that's my comment for now.
Good evening. I am in agreement with eliminating the 2 buildings that are up front. What I'm hearing from a lot of the residents is it's not fitting with the character of the neighborhood, and a lot of that comes with just line of sight coming down the street. That's what they see. Those 2 were replaced with plantings going down the road and additional visitor parking. That could eliminate a lot of what the neighbors are seeing. And then a concern of mine would be the 2 homes that are directly across the street from the driveway entrance, headlights that they'd be getting, through their windows all night. And then just what they'd be staring at for a few years. You're planting arborvitaes, but even at, a few feet a year, they're still going to see those buildings for the next, 5 to 10 years. So that doesn't do them any good. And then Dennis brought up the sidewalks. I think that the corner heading into the cul-de-sac would need an ADA ramp, some sort of access for the 3 homes that don't have a sidewalk. I don't think it's shown on the plan.
No, again, these are just concepts, so just general layout, general manner.
And then eventually, if families do move in here, the bus stop would be a safety concern as well. So that would be something we'd have to look at.
Okay. I'd like to finish up a little bit. First of all, you explained to the audience what dark sky compliance is. I don't think they know.
I'm not a lighting expert by any
Okay.
means.
And I'm not either. We can bring one in. But it's essentially, light that is designed to not have spillover off of the site, with cutoffs to avoid exactly that. So we're not lighting up, we're lighting exactly what we need to light now.
What they intend to do, dark sky compliance, means they want to keep everything downdrafted to the light. So it doesn't expand into people's homes. So they want to minimize the visual impact of the light. As we move further down the road, there'll be a photometric map dealing with the impact of dark sky compliance. I addressed my concern about the water. Visitor parking is a concern. I have to agree with what other board members have said and the audience has said. Ideally, I would like to see the horseshoe, losing the two buildings in the front and trying to find a compromise on where those entrances and exit could be situated so we don't impact the residents across the street. In regards to home value, I agree with the applicant. Over time, when this is built, I believe this will have a positive impact on home values. If I'm not mistaken, did you just rehab a home on Blackstone Street?
Yes, a home.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Did you just rehab a home on Blackstone Street that was recently sold?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And then that sold for a decent amount of money. I think this will raise the value of the homes in the area when it's being built. Right now, Bellingham is a very, very hot market. I think it's gonna stay that way for a while. Christine? Do you have anything else you have anything else you want to add? Anyone else? Yes, Chief, Deputy Chief.
So, I just confirmed with the building commissioner. So because those are 3 units, they will have to be sprinkled.
Okay,
So you will need to check on the water flow. You'll have to do flow testing to see if you have sufficient water to sprinkle those buildings.
And we have issues during periods of drought where significantly in the morning in particular, the water is horrible.
okay,
It like trickles out of the shower.
Yep.
So they're like right now it's great because we've had so much rain, but when there are times of drought, it's really bad.
I can't specifically address that. I do know I spoke to Jesse. You can call Jesse and he'll be glad to walk you through that process.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about testing times. Like same idea with the.
What they will do is they will thoroughly vet this from a water usage standpoint. The town, although it's perceived to be an aquifer, we're restricted on how much we can pump on a daily basis. So that brings into play, sometimes my water pressure may be low in certain areas of the town during the day, based on restrictions that we have. I can give you Jesse's number if you want it.
Yeah, that would be great.
And also I can, put this letter in the file from Jesse. He specifically addressed, a letter to, is Joseph Neville here? I spoke to Mr. Neville. I told him that this will be thoroughly vetted during the process. They did mention people further down Blackstone Street, across North Street. But I don't know what the impact is on that. But he did say, feel free, anyone who has concerns traveling with water, they can feel free to talk to. That will be entered into the record, as will the 2 other letters that we've received. Any other comments from the public? Yes, sir.
I live on 268 Blackstone Street. Across the street, 2 times a year, it's lowland and it fills up completely with water. I showed pictures to not to the board, to,
DPW,
what's that?
the DPW,
Yeah,
okay,
and, anyways, it fills up.
yep,
So the house on the right, you might need a pontoon to get in and out,
okay.
certain time of the year. And I also like to ask the board to do the right thing with the neighborhood. Because we got single family houses, let's stay with it.
We understand that, we're working through that process.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here. Doesn't sound like a Blackstone accent to me. Bellingham.
I'm not gonna tell you what it is.
Okay. I think I know where it's from.
I lived there for 57 years, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Any other comments from the board? What I'd like to do is, motion to continue this based on the comments everyone has said tonight to August 10th at 7. So I'd like to ask you all to do is come back on August 10th at 7 o'clock. And we'll be discussing this one last time. Well, not one last time, an additional time. They may update their plan. We'll go from there. In the interim, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down and bring it to the meeting on August 10th, or feel free to send them to the planning. Your input is highly recommended. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one question. So he did bring up that in that meeting, we said that there was gonna be, we'd prefer to see single family houses, like we've been saying.
Correct.
And is there any way that they could get a variance so it doesn't have to be on 2 acres of land? Can we make it an acre of land and put 5 houses? 6 houses?
I don't believe so, because that was a zoning requirement in effect when we removed the townhouse requirement.
Thank you.
All right, so I believe we had another development come in, and then we had to go through the same process.
Before we continue, can you just see if there's anybody out in Zoom land?
Anyone who wants to zoom in? I'll entertain a motion to continue this to August 10th.
Mr. Chair, can I just say one last thing?
Certainly.
So we heard all the comments and
Yep.
we've got detailed notes. We're gonna bring it back to the client and talk through potential design changes.
Yep.
I just wanna just make sure we're clear. We won't necessarily be able to do everything.
I understand.
For example, I'm just looking at horseshoe design, and we did think about that. Right now, we've got the driveway where lights wouldn't be hitting the house. We do horseshoe design, now we've got, visibility issues, and we may be positioning a driveway in a less ideal place. Same with water looping. We're gonna take this back, but, I just wanna make sure people are clear. If we come back with revised plans, we're not necessarily gonna be able to hit every single thing that comes up. We'll have to have some give and take to make this as good a design as we can build.
I would expect that. I think, that's the process we're here. I think, it's the marathon's not a sprint. And I think we're getting closer. I'm gonna go back to fire department. And, that's a big driver in town is safety. So, I do not know, look at it from a drone standpoint above how we can do that. But there may be a way to, separate the two, so it doesn't impact people, as best we can. Did I see one last hand raised? Okay. Entertain a motion. Do I have a second? Second. A motion on the floor has been seconded to continue this to August 10th at 7 p.m. Any discussion? I would call for the vote. Dennis?
Aye.
Bill, aye.
Bill, aye.
Nick, aye.
John, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Thank you for your participation, and we'll see you August 10th.
You know, yeah. Oh, no, thanks, guys. Oh, sure.
I gotta use it if you don't take it.
Amanda, is that all right? We didn't want to feel. We didn't want to feel tomorrow. I love it. And then. Oh, yes.
Mark, you all set? Okay, the next item on the agenda this evening is a continuation of a public hearing for 455 Hartford Avenue. It's my understanding the abutter has notified, the applicant has notified the abutters. Where do we stand with the plan in front of the fire department? And do we have a current plan in place?
Yes, so Mark Allen, Allen Engineering Associates, here representing Moshe Atayas, and I have Brian Falk here with me as well, to kind of go over the handful of items that we sort of remaining at the last hearing. One of which was the fire access. So we had sent Deputy Chief a fire access plan back in May, and it wasn't the exact template that they used. So he forwarded us a template with the proper radii, 254-inch base ladder truck. We modified our auto turn software and we supplied that to the fire department. It entails adding a gate at one entrance and a gate at the other entrance, so that would be for emergency use only. We just hadn't heard back anything for the last 6 or 8 weeks. We were hoping just to kind of discuss what the thoughts are from the fire department's access, but we did meet all the turning radii for that vehicle.
What's the width of that back road?
20 feet.
So. We did look at some of this and sent it back to planning.
Yep.
We reviewed this, they have the template. So 20 feet is there's a retaining wall there, correct?
Yeah, there'll be a retaining wall with a guardrail along it.
So it's gotta be sufficient to handle our truck.
Absolutely.
So what we're looking for is something wide, the width of it, as well as the ability to handle the load of the ladder truck with the outriggers set up there.
Yeah, that will be completely able to handle that.
So that was our concern was the turning radius. You met that, but you also meet the requirements so that we can set up there that water flow will not hamper that retaining wall as we flow water. If there was a fire in that building, it has to be safe enough for us to run that ladder truck in that area. And so it's a one-dimensional plan. We did give our recommendations to the planning board. So it didn't really require a return from us. This is a planning board.
Again, that retaining wall is only about 4.5 feet tall, so it's not So it'll be structurally designed, but it's not gonna be a Walmart or a Whole Foods style wall.
It'll be able to handle
It will,
low rate over it that.
absolutely.
Wipe it out.
Yep.
And so it will have to have be a structural wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to add?
Okay, yep, I'll kind of go through the other items. This board asked us to send a letter to the abutters to let them know that this hearing was being taken place tonight. We did send that out within a week of our last hearing. Another item was the water service that was discussed. The water service was sent to Jesse and Don at the DPW. We kind of highlighted exactly what our proposal was. Then we got their feedback via email, and they indicated through email that there is an existing 10-inch cast iron pipe out in the street, and that this connection would be sufficient to, or that the existing mains would be sufficient to supply this use with low flows. Another item that was on the to-do list was just to let you know our comfort level with Conservation Commission. I think I mentioned the last hearing, we wouldn't be here before you tonight unless we were comfortable satisfying Conservation Commission's concerns. They had a lengthy discussion on snow storage and stormwater impacts, so we believe we've resolved them, and now we're here before you to tidy up the last few planning items. And now that we know that the fire chief, deputy chief is going to be okay with the circulation, we can actually finalize our set of design plans and get that back to you. The last item was the waiver of the stormwater basins. And the waiver that we'd asked for revolved around the one regulation that says they have to be below grade. And we just, in order to, again, finalize our design plans to be set before you and the commission, is just to have an action on that waiver.
Okay,
I believe that was,
There's another one that you're gonna go over the items from when you took over the project, and you were gonna go over all the notes that you took and the
Yes.
changes that you made in the
Yep.
plans based upon the feedback that we had. from the
Correct.
community.
correct. So what I heard from those meetings were traffic impacts, stormwater impacts, wetland impacts, lighting impacts, all of which we picked up the ball from the previous engineer and sort of tidied up all of those loose ends. They did not have the right size stormwater infrastructure. They had a slightly larger building. They had a different traffic pattern. We changed it a hair. We had added the circulation. So I think we've.
There's some screening too, wasn't there? If I mean, we're going back over a year and a half.
Sure.
So I didn't take notes, but there was some screening.
Yeah, so what I heard was, because of the previous owner's clearing activity, that all of these areas are to be not touched. We actually, they had a deed certain pieces of this parcel so as they could not be touched. I don't know if that means screening your question, but at least it secured the fact that we could not touch in our future design, anything in this hatch area and anything within 50 feet of the wetland to the rear.
Yeah, no, I think there was some neighbors on the backside over there that were here the first couple of meetings.
So again, that's what I took as screening, because there's no development beyond midsection. There was a little bit of a discussion about offsite stormwater, which we mitigated.
So the trees are gonna stay in the,
Absolutely,
from there all the way out.
correct.
What are they gonna do between the screening between my property and yours?
Which property is that, sir?
457, which is directly next to it, north of it.
So that's where the retaining wall will be now for the 20-foot wide access drive for the fire department.
So you said a 4-foot wall.
About 4.5, yeah.
So basically, I'm gonna be looking at the back of your buildings with all the lights and the noise and everything with only a 4-foot wall.
No lights in the back of the building. All the lights are gonna be in the front side of the building, interior and interior to the parking lot.
What about the groundwater that exists?
Yeah, groundwater has been accounted for, there were dozens of test pits done, all of the infrastructure.
During the drought, you did test.
So what we do as far as soil evaluation is we take into account what they call the redox layers, where in times of drought, you can see that staining where they have, orangey and gray layers of the soil. That indicates the seasonal high groundwater mark, so even in drought condition, historically, you can tell exactly where that high water mark is. And
Yeah, I can tell too, it's in my basement.
it's 2 feet deep. 2 feet deep, so this entire site will be raised. So we know
So-
that.
So you're gonna displace the the groundwater,
Not gonna touch the groundwater. We're gonna build up on top of it.
so you're gonna put all that weight on top of the groundwater.
Just wait, I think the boards have some questions
Sure.
related to what you have to say.
Can I ask this one? What's the square footage of that building now?
It is 14,440. It's a sprinkler building. Yeah, absolutely. 1-story sprinkler steel building.
I didn't know if you wanted to read. Love's letter.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, we received some correspondence. Amy, for the record, could you please read, document that you sent to me dated July 21st, 2023 at 8:25 a.m.
Was that in regards to the representative that came into the office?
Yes.
I don't have that in front of me, but basically what
Okay,
happened, if
let
you
you-
have it, I can explain what happened. A resident came into the office, basically inquiring about the property, saying that it was listed on the MLS website and he was looking to purchase it. And that it was an approved plan by the planning board. And he was looking to have a dumpster business. And so, he came into the office inquiring about the approved plan. So,
This is the second time, at least the second time. Maybe we've had 3 people come in and say that, this is being sold with approved plans. We mentioned our concern the first time, I believe the second time. We haven't approved any plans. I don't know why this is being marketed with approved plans. We asked that it stop a while ago, and it continues as of 2 days ago. So that's a little disappointing. In regards to, do you have the July 21st letter from Mr. Allen?
yes.
Can you read that to the record, please?
Hi, Amy and Jim. I just wanted to touch base ahead of tomorrow night's meeting. As you know, this project has requested a waiver from the local bylaw, specifically the below grade basin construction. This waiver is the exact same waiver that the planning board gave themselves as part of the town hall common road project. You may recall that the new road that starts at the Walgreens and connects to Mill Street has 2 large stormwater basins. These basins are designed and approved by planning and conservation with this exact waiver. In addition, all of the design basins in the Red Mill subdivision were granted this waiver. Hopefully, I won't have to bring this up at the hearing tomorrow night. In my opinion, this below grade bylaw should be eliminated as it is almost impossible to adhere to. It would require that the groundwater underneath basins would need to be 8 to 10 feet deep. There aren't any locations in Bellingham nor New England that have that dry of conditions. Let me know if you want me to follow up on this topic or any others.
Well, thank you for putting that in. Okay.
Absolutely.
I wanted to be a little forthright and put it in the record.
Please do.
Now, also, you didn't address the fact that this is being marketed. It's having approved plans. That has to stop. There are no approved plans. Am I wrong?
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
I'm the owner.
I know.
Moshe. To my best knowledge, it was stopped months ago. You tell me that it's illegal, and I don't go online, I don't even know how to go online, look it and all that. It would be Tony Pinto, and I will talk to him tonight about it. It was
Okay.
not supposed to be on.
Okay, it's the second or third time
I agree,
that it happened.
I
And it
understand.
puts us in a bad position. And we have to go out and spend that time on it.
It aggravates me to hear that, and it's the first time I heard it. I heard it a long time ago from the planning board.
Yeah,
And immediately I called him and said, you got to put a stop, because that's not what it's there for, but I will do the same thing tonight.
Do we have an updated set of plans? That have been filed with the board?
The most recent plans I have are from April.
Okay. So you're talking about plans that you've given the fire department. We haven't had a chance to see them.
They were here at the last hearing. This set of plans, the one set of plans for the fire department was circulated prior to the last hearing.
What's the date on that, Mark?
And again, without a waiver and without the fire department's input that we got tonight, we can't issue a final set of plans. And we need these two tools to issue a final set of plans. So the tools that the information requested from town agencies, i.e. the water department and the fire department, were sent back, May 11th. And that was the
Those are
second one.
dated, right.
There was one about
what's the date?
3 weeks before without the 254-inch that the deputy chief reviewed. So the plans have been reviewed. April was the official full set.
Right.
We heard comments from the board. We issued a draft to the fire department for comment. And that's where we stand today.
Okay. One of our members can't be here this evening. Can you please read his response to the March
Sure.
20th?
As was stated, I have some, and this is from, alternate member Rob Lucier, and I can give this to the applicant. I have some issues attending tonight's meeting, as I am also covering another meeting tonight. In the event that I cannot make it, I'm offering the below comments questions regarding 455 Hartford Ave project. What is the proposed surface for the fire truck lane? Will this be paved? It is my belief that trash trucks will also need to use the fire truck's driveway in order to safely exit the site. There does not appear to be enough room behind the building to safely turn around for the trash truck or pump truck that may be on site to service the floor drain holding tank. For this reason, I strongly recommend that the board require this driveway be paved. Are there doors located on the rear of the building? If so, the doors will be opening directly into a paved drive aisle, which is not ideal from a public safety standpoint. Lastly, the additional impervious area will need to be treated and accounted for in the revised stormwater report. Feel free to give me a call with any questions. Rob.
If I could, those are fantastic comments and questions.
Yep.
So we fully intended that be a paved drive aisle for the fire department use. We will be, as I said earlier, we are proposing that each of the ends have a gate with a Knox box or some sort of fire access only locking system. The trash and pump trucks, as in previous, would pull in straight. They have the front loading, sort of emptying the trash containers and pump truck, and then they back up and pull out. So they pull in, empty their, or pick up their load and back out and pull in. So they would not be using that fire access only. And there are no doors along that rear facade, so there will not be any public access to that paved drive. And the impervious area obviously will be captured in the small amount of impervious area will be captured in the stormwater system.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Certainly, sir.
I own Rosewood Restaurant. I've looked at that property several times. I talked to Tony Pinto over the years when that property went on the market to build a bigger, better Rosewood, but at my age, it's not in my best interest. In any case, the water table there is super high. And so I'm hearing about like a trash disposal company, and I thought it was being marketed as a automotive repair facility.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
A person walked in, most likely from the realtor,
Yeah.
inquiring about a trash storage area.
Okay.
Based on the planning board having approved plans, which is not the case.
Okay.
So that is, excuse me, out the window, so to speak.
Okay.
But your point about the water table.
It's crazy. I have a water issue already. I have a house up the street that was renovated, probably 4 or 5 houses up. They paved probably 80% of their backyard, and all the water, they did no water recharge system or anything. So it all flows down to me. And I have huge issues now since they did that. Talked to Bruce Wilson about it. In any case, so I spent a considerable amount of money on my septic system back in 2014. And anybody in that area knows the water table's super high, and the type of system I had to put in was a Presby system, so it's higher from the surface because the water table, because it being so high, the original system wouldn't have worked. So my concern is not traffic or anything like that. It's more of like the water table, because I'm like at the bottom of the funnel there. And you know, the water flows downhill. I have it coming from Farm Street. I have it coming down Hartford Avenue in both directions. So that's my concern. I'm, like I said, I was interested in the property, but I lived my life, you know, I can't, you know, so I'm not against them developing it. I'm just concerned about where all the groundwater is gonna go from, you know, the roof drainage system, the parking lot and everything else, because that's all, there is no street other than the storm water drains in the street. Everything goes back into the ground.
Okay. Mark, I had the opportunity to talk to Jim Cuff about this, based on your letter. And this is what I like to read. The difference between a basin infill construction for residential subdivision is that there's more reliability control, that the maintenance can be achieved, and the use of limited impact road runoff. Whether it's a private entity with very minimal oversight, an unknown use that may have hazardous waste, chemicals entering the basin, ultimately entering the groundwater and everything. Do you agree with that? Okay. Okay, well, that's coming.
I'm talking about just the height of the water, the height of the basin.
And that's coming from our former top planner consultant, and it's someone who's we worked on this, whose information we value. So I'd say enough. Yep.
Mark, if you can talk a little bit about the wall. Fire lane, it's 4 feet. The retaining wall is 4 feet. Is that at ground level or is that 4 feet?
It's gonna be 4 feet above ground level.
What kind of wall?
We proposed one of those segmental concrete block retaining walls. Whether it be the small blocks or the big blocks.
Like a giant cinder block kind of thing?
I'll give you an example. Around town, like the common landscape walls are the sort of 18-inch by 12-inch landscape block walls. These would be more like 3 foot wall, 3 foot by 2 foot. They stack up and they become interlocked. They have certain notches in them so that they stack well. They have a taper to them. Yeah.
Is there an opportunity to screen? They're gonna see the back of that wall.
Correct.
Is there an opportunity to provide screen from that wall or?
You could, yeah. There's a few feet in between the property line and the wall.
You spoke about the fence.
Well, the fence is gonna be at the top of the wall. The guardrail and the fence is gonna be at the top of the wall.
No, but if I'm not mistaken, when your first proposal came, the neighbors were concerned about putting a fence in the back to allow critters to go underneath. It's still blocked the view.
Couple of come out there, critters in view. I misunderstood your question.
They wanted wildlife and critters.
Yep.
You know, access underneath that fence.
Correct, so that fence at ground level has been eliminated. The fence is gonna be at the top of the wall.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a 4 foot concrete wall.
Correct.
Then on top of that,
There have to be a guardrail and a fence for security and safety.
okay, so how high does that
The fence is about 5 foot chain link fence and the guardrail is about 30 inches off the ground.
there's a four? I don't have a good back.
Sure.
There's a 4 foot wall.
Yeah.
It's 4 feet
Off the ground.
off the ground. On top of that, there's gonna be a 5 foot chain link fence.
Just in front of it will be a 5 foot chain link fence, correct?
Not on top of the wall, in front of the wall?
Just in front of the wall.
It's not,
You can't really drill through the wall to put the fence in.
all right, so it's a 4-foot wall, and then 1 foot above it, you'll see a chain link.
Nope, another 5 feet above that, you'll see the chain link fence.
I see, so it's a 9 foot.
4-foot wall, 5-foot fence.
So it's 19 total, there'll be cement and then a fence.
Correct,
And
Further through.
on the applicant side, there's a guardrail.
correct.
Yeah, I think,
Very standard for walls over 4 feet tall.
no, I'm just thinking aesthetically that, would love to see screening
At the base of the wall. We can't do it at the top. Yeah.
everywhere.
Mhm.
Because that is not a site I know I would want to look at necessarily.
Which is why we proposed the 2-to-1 slope beginning.
Nothing right now.
Nothing to add right now.
Anyone in the public? Who's here?
So I
Yes,
do-
sir.
I do just want to verify that they're gonna come back with some engineering, because those stone walls with the fence on top of it, so the distance between the back of the building and the guardrail will allow for our
Correct.
lightest truck to be set up there.
Correct.
Okay, and that wall structurally will withstand the weight and stability during usage.
Correct.
And that's gonna be able to be a confirmed letter from engineer.
It'll be a structurally engineered wall, correct.
I have some concerns with. I don't feel comfortable this evening granting the waiver. Based on what I have in front of me. The alternate is an engineer. And he doesn't feel comfortable with the waiver. We've been told that, our town planner, who should be on here in a minute. The language we discussed, he doesn't feel comfortable. These are people. One is a board member. One is a town planner. It's a consultant, really one. So right now, I don't know how we can. I don't believe we can grant the waiver. I think we have too many things outstanding. Does anyone disagree?
No, I don't disagree. I don't think it has to be.
Well, he indicated he wanted to waive.
We can't issue final plans until we know what the design constraints
So
are.
I think we should tell them that either the waiver should be granted or not. If you don't feel like you have enough information, but I don't think it should be.
I don't have enough information to see.
What information would you like if we want to have it as planned?
I would like to have the town planners comfort, our consultant comfort level increased. And one of our board members.
Do we have Dominic on? the Zoom?
No, we don't.
Mr. Chairman, Jim just joined. Jim just joined in.
Jim, how are you?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
We're in a little bit of a conundrum right here.
All right.
As you know, we had some language for letters going back and forth. You've seen the response from Rob Lucier to Mark Allen's letter and the language we discussed this afternoon. And he doesn't feel comfortable with either response. I indicated before you came on board that we rely heavily on your input and the input from our alternate member, who's also an engineer. So I don't feel comfortable moving forward on the waiver this evening. Can you tell me that language that we worked on? Why would someone be uncomfortable with it?
Well, so, Mr. Chairman, so I will start off by saying you don't even have a plan that reflects what is being proposed. I'm sure you guys have discussed that already. So that's overarching concern number one. The second item, and I did receive Mr. Allen's email in reference to other basins that have been partially or constructed infill. And, again, and again, I apologize if you guys have already stated this and I'm reiterating it, but residential uses in a subdivision specifically are a wholly different discussion in terms of stormwater basins, stormwater management. This basins in a subdivision have operation and maintenance plan that is reviewed and conducted potentially by the town if it's public infrastructure, as some of those that were referenced by Mr. Allen. And in addition to this one specifically, being that it is infill with the understanding that the groundwater is so high, the concern obviously is the potential use there and the contaminants that may get in, both through any hazardous materials or hazardous waste or what have you that might be there, as the applicant hasn't identified a specific tenant or use at that location. So granting this waiver without a better complete understanding of a plan and project, I think you're certainly well within your rights to be hesitant to grant that waiver at this time.
So if I could just respond, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry?
If I could just respond.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kupfer. I just want to respond on a couple of topics that he touched on. Some were design related, some were future impact related, but the waiver request is simply for the elevation of where it sits. This has nothing to do with the future use, the current use, residential use and industrial use. All of those maintenance issues occur through the stormwater management policy and other regulatory bodies, US NIPD's, Massachusetts DEP stormwater guidelines, all of which Dominic and BSC Group have thoroughly vetted for our cleaning of the actual stormwater. This is simply where it sits. Is it below grade or is it above grade? That's the waiver that we're looking for. It has nothing to do with the physical operation and maintenance in the future, because that has all been addressed by other Conservation Commission and BSC Group peer review. So this is simply a design restraint where for some reason the town of Bellingham feels as if every drainage basin needs to be below grade. But again, if you're in an industrial park that's generating biohazardous material, and if it's below grade, it's okay. So that argument kind of doesn't hold water, because I guess it would be okay if it was below grade and it can take all these contaminants to it. So the contaminants in the operation or maintenance are one thing. Where it is and how high it is a separate thing, the design.
Where it is and how high it is of a certain material is what we're talking about, right? So
yeah.
we're talking about
in the past, BSC has required that they operate or they go and inspect the actual impervious fill that gets built up on the berm.
He was responding to you and you interrupted. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you. But to Mr. Allen's point, yes, in the past, we have had our consultants review the construction because, again, as noted, if it's going to be infill, it's a different material, a different manner in which that material may or may not last over time. And so it's vital for us to understand how it's constructed and for assurance for the town that it will be withstand the test of time. So yes, in the past, the board has, with caution, granted some of these approvals, but with strict construction management oversight. And that is for something that would be for a residential use, and again, for something that would be over time managed by the town.
Which we would fully assume that same strict oversight during construction be part of the conditions. And to touch on my previous email, I just wanted to explain that this waiver is so difficult to get over that because Bellingham has adopted these stormwater regulations that are so egregious and so they expand the dimensions of all stormwater infiltration basins. Bellingham has adopted a regulation that you assume that the entire site is frozen, so as that all the impervious area goes into these basins. That expands the size of the basin. They also have another regulation where you can't have the height of the 100-year storm within 1 foot of the overflow spillway. So what happens is that makes 2 feet of freeboard, where the normal regulation is 1 foot of freeboard. So you have to make your basins not only bigger square footage wise, you have to make them deeper in Bellingham. So then they add the 3rd layer where they tell you you can't build it in, you have to build it below grade. So what that means is you take that first 2 feet of freeboard, you then have an oversized basin that's about 5 or 6 feet deep now because of Bellingham's regulations. And then the state tells you you're gonna be 4 feet above groundwater. So the only places in Bellingham that can accept stormwater under your regulations will need 10 feet of dry soil.
Why do you think they adopted?
Prevent development, to be completely honest. Prevent
Uh,
development.
You know, I look at your letter. And I go back to our last meeting. There's one sentence here that bothers me great. Hopefully I won't have to bring this up at the hearing tomorrow night. Well, we brought it up, okay? That's a very interesting line. And it bothers me greatly.
And I'll explain the reason I wrote that.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If you received something that said, hopefully, I won't have to bring this up at a hearing tomorrow night. Would you perceive that as, a challenge or maybe a threat?
No, I was hoping that the board has seen enough project go through town that they realize that this is an impossible regulation to adhere to. That's what I'm saying. Hopefully, the board has seen this enough times where it's impossible to meet this regulation.
Jim, I don't think we've never come to this point before with an applicant, is that correct?
Well, so I mean, as we touched on, there has been waivers in the past for residential purposes. I'm not familiar with one for industrial or a commercial, but there may have been. You know, it's certainly, I would say that, you know, and Mr. Allen actually has performed this quite well over the years, you know, have had many successful projects in town that have met the standard.
So going back to that point, we've been developing basins in Bellingham for 20+ years. Going back to Crystal Springs condos, very high groundwater table, next to Crystal Pool and Spa. And that was before the bylaws changed. There has not been one breach. That those basins were all built infill. They were not monitored by your peer review consultant at the time, and they have had 0 over the last 22 years breaches in their berms.
But our bylaws.
Correct.
And we work under the bylaw. So Jim, I think we need to take a pause here, regroup, and come back on the set of buttons. I don't feel comfortable this evening entertaining the waiver based on the information I've been provided by you as well as the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm happy to, you know, have maybe a meeting with Mr. Allen and chat about this topic. But I do think my recommendation would be you have a plan in front of you that reflects what is being proposed here. You know, I know the exhibit was provided to the chief. And so there's, as Mr. Lucier mentioned, there's a number of questions about, you know, how that actually gets completed because you don't have an actual plan in front of you. So you know, my suggestion would be at that, if you do decide to continue this August 10th, you know, an actual plan is before you that you could act on at some point.
What's the thing on? My viewpoint right now would not be to, I'll get straight to it. I think I would ask Jim to, draft an unfavorable decision, please. based on the information we have available. But that's just one person, what's your.
Did you want to say something?
Go ahead.
I think I would agree with that, Mr. Chairman.
I think I would be more leaning towards a continuance with a conversation with Jim and Mr. Allen. I'm not saying that the next meeting we won't do negative or positive, but I think there's some more discussion that could progress. And I'd be willing to let another conversation happen before taking a vote to unfavorable or favorable. So,
I wouldn't want to pass judgment tonight on whether or not, should approve or not approve the project. And I think we just gotta make a decision on the waiver. I think that what we're all struggling with, maybe even speaking for myself, is we're not inclined to waive it, right? As we sit here today. So let's take a vote and see if we waive the waiver. And then they can figure out what they need to do. And they can revise their plans and whatever way they feel they need. But I think that's the fair thing to do. Yeah. I just think that everybody's just a little uncomfortable by saying, I'm not inclined to waive the waiver.
Well, I think we
Frankly,
have done everything but say that.
You can't give us that offense unless we either give you the waiver, we deny the waiver. Is that why you can't do the set of fence?
No, it'd just be a lot easier.
Well, when we all wanted to look at a set of fence, correct?
Sure.
Why don't you give us a set of fence?
Here next week.
There you go.
That's all it took, sir. You said you wanted to do it,
Yeah.
without the waiver. Have fun with it.
Oh, no, maybe I was misunderstood. I'm gonna give you the same set of prints, assuming I get the waiver. That's gonna be the design, because we've asked for a waiver.
That isn't what I said.
Okay,
Yes. Well, what happens if we deny? Can you give us one with no waiver? Will we just deny it?
the project is completely underwater, no pun intended.
Exactly what the neighborhood was saying. It's
Can I-
not me, it is.
If you have to be below grade and the groundwater table is at 2 feet,
You
and
can't,
you need 8 feet of material, you need an 8-foot hole. You'd be 6 feet into the groundwater table.
so this project is dead unless you raise it up.
Correct. Correct.
Can I say something? Yes or no?
No, go ahead, sir. I'm just going.
So I've been there for 24 years. Obviously I was interested in the site.
Yep.
And, I know it has to be an elevated site. So when you elevate that, the Delorme next door to Cumberland Farms, you're gonna have a raised up lot with water going somewhere. So they're gonna be on the high side, we're gonna be on the low side. We both already have water problems. And I will tell you, years ago, when they went in to perk that lot, I watched them go in with a backhoe to dig the test holes to put the perk tubes in, and the backhoe got stuck and they had to bring an excavator in to pull the backhoe out. So it's very wet. So I know why they're raising it up. I'm here because I have water problems already at my site. If they elevate that site and you recharge all the water into the ground, well, where's it gonna go? Because you're just gonna bring the water up even higher, and my building and the DeLorme's house is gonna float up out of the ground.
That I can very easily answer, if I could, Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead.
So those questions have been, they're about a year in now with the BSC group peer review. So when you bring that elevation up with fill material,
Yeah.
we are now required to mitigate everything that we make impervious.
But if you put a recharge system in the ground, the water still goes in the ground and raises the ground water level high. It's not gonna go anywhere.
So what it does is, not to get too hydraulically involved, but there's hydraulic mounding calculations that we have to provide. So during the 100-year storm event, when all that water is coming through the pipes and gets underneath now the new fill, we have to make sure that that groundwater mound doesn't come up below or above the surface of the water. So that it mitigates all over the surface underneath the drainage basins. So to Bellingham's credit, they have adopted very aggressive stormwater bylaws, of which we, are adhering to, except for this one waiver because the groundwater is so high. All of the mitigation for peak runoff, for volume to recharge, for cleanliness of the water, all of those items have been addressed. There'll be no more water coming off this site than is currently going off this
That's
site.
going under the ground, and it's still gonna come up out of the ground like it does, especially like in the spring. And when we get a lot of rain and stuff,
Right,
the
so
water table
If we
comes up.
added, right, if we've added 6 feet of material to it, then the water has that 6 feet of material to percolate through.
But the groundwater level doesn't change. You could
No.
build a mountain,
Correct.
the water level's gonna stay the same. So if you're putting the water back in the ground from all your roof drains, your parking lot drainage and everything else, the water level in the ground is the same. It doesn't matter.
During storms, it slightly mounds underneath. these
I
drainage
built a
basins.
commercial building, so I know about detention ponds and all that stuff. So I understand that. I'm not gonna challenge you, but I'm just saying that the water has to go somewhere and it goes into the ground. And,
It's a combination of infiltration and exfiltration.
but the water table's not gonna change, is what I'm saying.
Never does.
Okay, that's all.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick correction there. Sorry, so Mr. Allen mentioned that, you have stormwater calcs that have been vetted by BSC. Just a reminder that, you don't have a plan, so you don't have calculations. You had a plan and it's been proposed to be changed. So there will need to be further evaluations of the stormwater calculations. So I just don't want it to be inferred that you're sitting on, final stormwater calcs and stormwater plans or site plans.
Yeah.
Those are to come.
Yep, no, that only changed, Jim. You see this area? I don't know if you can see me pointing to the plan.
No,
only
you're actually
change-
just off the screen, but yeah, I know it's gonna be
The only,
behind
the
the
only
building.
change to the entire site will be that small sliver of land that was a 2-to-1 slope and now is gonna be a retaining wall.
Right. So you'll have to update the plan and calcs, right?
So I spend a lot of time with planners and engineers in my line of work, and I try really hard to follow what they're saying
Yeah.
and their points, and I'm doing my best tonight. But in terms of the board entertaining this waiver request, it seems to me you've got a dispute on technical issues right now between our
Correct.
engineers and our planners. And so in order to make an informed decision on a waiver, I think we need time to have Mark sit down with Jim and go over these issues.
Okay,
and see if we
that'd be
come to
fine.
consensus. Yep.
We're looking at 2 options. Can you reach out to the applicant? Jim,
Yeah, absolutely. Mark and I can certainly sit down and chat. Absolutely.
and then we will hold off on the waiver. We will hold off any decisions. And move forward to a meeting on the 10th of August. That's fair, sir.
I think that's fair, and I think that gives the board the opportunity to make an informed waiver decision. Because it seems to me, yep, it's that issue, and then confirmation with the deputy fire chief's request that the wall and access way are sufficient for the truck.
Okay.
The width is there, and that the wall can withstand the size. of the
One
truck.
thing I may want to ask. For the gentleman here who lives behind. Is there any way we can reduce the impact of that concrete wall? Do you have any space outside of that for a 9-foot wall?
I believe there'll be space down at the base of the wall between that wall.
Like a 9-foot interlocking fence, not chain link? Would that be,
Be better than.
I'm not more than a chain link, correct?
It would be better than a concrete wall and an ugly chain link fence.
Okay.
We do need an extension. We do need an extension of decision. The deadline date would be July 13th. So we will need an extension of the deadline. for making the decision.
We're gonna need an extension on the deadline for this. What will you propose? What's our,
If we're continuing until August tenth,
second meeting, first meeting in September?
I think that would work if that's okay with the applicant. Okay. So we could shoot for an extension deadline date of, say, our meeting in September is September 14th. So should we say the 15th, right after that meeting, or we could do it before?
So I would entertain first a motion to extend the extension date for 455 Hartford Avenue to September 14th.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Mhm.
Do I have a second?
Mhm.
Second.
Okay. The motion on the floor is made and seconded. Any discussion to extend this to September 14th?
You guys agree to that?
Yes.
Yes, I.
Bill, aye?
Bill, aye.
Nick, I.
Okay. So the people in the audience who are here this evening, I would ask you to come back and on the meeting.
So we need a motion.
On the tenth, I need a motion to continue the public hearing to Thursday, August tenth.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to continue to August tenth, made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Call for the vote. Bill, aye?
Bill, aye.
Nick, I.
That motion passes. So we'll see you back here on Thursday, August tenth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Brian.
Now that's fine.
Oh,
No, not immigration.
okay.
Next on our agenda is to continue public hearing on the WS development. Jim, can you bring us up to date on what's happening?
Sure, since, excuse me, since the last meeting with the applicant, we've sat down and talked about further improvements to the entryway. If you may recall at the last meeting of the board, we were focused on how the uses may operate within the plaza, within the front of the plaza and accessing the warehouse location. And there was some initial designs considered and some suggestions. And I believe tonight you'll have an improved exhibit trying to achieve those concerns or alleviate those concerns tonight. And I think that's it for the moment on this one.
Gentlemen, the floor is yours when you're ready.
All right, good evening. For the record, Austin Turner with Bowler. Ron Mueller, Chapel Design Associates.
Ron Mueller and Associates, actually.
Ron Mueller Associates. And you know our illustrious world traveler, Mr. Jeff Curley.
Yeah.
We are here to continue to talk about, we've had a lot of discussions, very productive discussions, we've done a lot of work. on the entrance driveway, such as a crossroads center, which obviously the access in that is being shared with the proposal that we're talking about as part of this application. And the parking configuration that gets kind of refined with that. So I thought what we'd do tonight would be to discuss the refinements we've made, the improvements that we continue to make to this. And I think we're getting very, very close to getting a consensus. I'm being a bit presumptuous in there, but we spent a lot of time talking about it and we've taken that feedback to heart. So I think the plan that you'll see here tonight is going to be an improvement, frankly, over what we've been talking about in the past. And I obviously want to make that a collaborative discussion. What we've done is the graphics we've compiled, we've heard from the board, and for us, frankly, too, we created the graphics to show you can see 126 and Hartford Avenue and the entire center all on one exhibit, very clean, very simple, so you can see, we can zoom in and out and pan around. So I'm doing a lot of talking about it. I think I have the ability to share a screen here, right? So let me know when folks can see that. Yeah, it's up in all these wonderful screens behind me too. So what we will do, we'll start globally, just so you can kind of get context again. Then I think what we'll do is I'll have Ron talk about the entrance driveway and some of the improvements we've made, but just by way of some table setting, we're showing all the improvements that are being designed and actively permitted right now on Hartford Avenue 126. We've talked about that at length. And then this is the entrance driveway that Ron will get into in a minute to talk about all the improvements that we've made there, which are direct reflections of the feedback that we've had discussions here. And then on top of that, we'll get further into the physical site improvements that we're considering for the Crossroads Center as well, to really improve the access, define it a bit further, and make it separated as we talked about from the project that's happening just behind us. So did you want to start with the Zoom in background?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this is, basically just for comparison purposes, a depiction of the existing, Crossroads access driveway. We've colored it up so that it looks, basically, comparable to what I'm going to show you next. But just to give you some perspective of how wide the entrance and the exits are, this is what exists today. And then based on the feedback that we've received from the last meeting, this is, where is it?
Oh, you should just
Okay, gotcha. So then this now is the access drive that we're proposing. So let me just. So this is existing. This is proposed. And as you can see, there's a substantial difference in the design now where we've incorporated a much wider entrance into the center here. We've now extended the raised median all the way down to that first internal intersection. We do have to leave a break right here. That's going to be like serrated concrete that cars won't want to drive over, but trucks need to be able to get out from behind Flora and Core and Party City to be able to make that left turn as they do today. So that's the reason for this break here. But you see all this hatched area here. That's necessary in order to allow the big tractor trailer trucks to make that turn. And you see the same thing on the exiting, very wide shoulder, hatched shoulder, necessary again to allow, because we are introducing obviously more truck traffic now, so that tractor trailers can stay entirely in the right lane, not affect the adjacent lane as is currently happening, by the way. So you have a tractor trailer out there right now is making a turnout on people with truck. They're taking up the entire double right turn lane, and they're taking up the entire two receiving lanes on Hartford Ave right now, where this widening will allow them to stay entirely within the right lane. And that was what we're trying to accomplish. To the question of the merging and the weaving that may go on when the two double left turn lanes, when those turns are being made at the same time. We've introduced now overhead sign. There's a mast arm located right here, just inside. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a line right there. That's the difference between the state, everything is state-owned to the right of that, and town-owned to the left of that. So we put it basically right at that line, and have overhead signage that directs traffic to which lane you need to be in. The wording of that signage, I think, is something that we need to obviously develop as we know better who the tenants will be. I mean, if it's a warehouse, 700,000 square foot warehouse, then this signing may be appropriate. But you essentially have warehouse traffic with a left arrow pointing to the outside left turn lane, and shopping center left arrow sign over the adjacent left turn lane. So that as these two vehicles are making turns at the same time, and by the way, this is designed so that a WB 67, which is the largest type tractor trailer truck, can make that turn at the same time as another single unit truck next to it. So for passenger cars, which is going to be the most of the cars in that other left turn lane, the shopping center left turn lane, there'll be more than adequate room to make those turns. So those cars now enter, as they enter here, again, there's another sign on the right side that says shopping center, right turn only. Another sign on the median here that says warehouse traffic, straight through only. And then another set of signs right here, again, warehouse traffic only here. Shopping center right turn only there. And then another sign, just to overkill this, another warehouse traffic only sign, where but underneath the sign says no access to shopping center. So I think that will make it very clear, even to people entirely new to the area, to guide them exactly in which lane they need to be in. The next page here shows the depiction of these tractor trailer trucks making these turns. So you can see this is the path, swept path basically that a WB 67 truck, tractor trailer truck would make in order to stay in that lane, adjacent again to another truck, a single unit truck. So you can see that those paths do not cross ever. The width provided is more than adequate to allow these turns to be made. And similarly, the truck exiting is able to stay entirely within his own right turn lane to make that turn without encroaching on the two receiving lanes on Hartford Ave. So we've also made some pretty substantial internal improvements. One, we've increased the radius in this corner right here to allow single unit trucks to make those turns without encroaching on exiting traffic. And then we've introduced a much wider landscape median all along, and Austin will take you through those improvements. But maybe at this point, if you have any questions specific about the axis itself before we get into some of the other landscaping improvements.
I have one question.
Yes.
Area right here. You mentioned you might have trucks coming.
Well,
What were the purposes of those trucks?
the reason we modeled a single unit truck, it basically is like the largest single unit truck, a 30-foot long truck, is because there may be people with trailers going to Home Depot that come in that way.
Okay. Not delivery vehicles.
No, not delivery vehicle.
Second question I have. Love the idea of the signs. Have you driven down 95 down towards downtown Providence?
Yes.
You get by the Civic Center in the mall, and it says, exit A, exit B, exit C. Have you thought of, in addition to putting letters, and then conversely putting a letter on the pavement, so people know lane A brings me to the shopping center, lane B brings me to the warehouse? I'm just trying to give as much information.
Right.
Because a lot of them are gonna be doing multifunction. Looking, driving, and probably talking to cell phone. I'm not saying your drivers might be used, but People are gonna be preoccupied.
That's an interesting idea, yeah, I mean, just wondering if that might be too much information
Okay.
that people are looking at, because if they have too many signs and too many, because we do have pavement markings as well, down on the entrance, down here. So
Okay.
we have pavement markings as well, right turn with the only, and through slash left arrow, with also an only.
Okay,
So if we added lane A and lane B type markings as well, it might be
if you, that's
overkill.
fine.
You may want to start out on the road and put this lane only out there, start with your only out there instead of that arrow, because if I'm driving, I'm looking, both of them are taking me to the same place. You put only on it, and now I'm saying, oh, I gotta be in the right lane.
So you mean adding,
Out there on on Hartford Avenue.
The word only. The word only to each side.
Exactly.
oh, yeah, oh, gotcha,
When you
gotcha,
begin, you may want
gotcha,
to start
yep.
with only right there.
Good point. Very good point, yep.
So, with regard to the masthead sign, you can't see where I'm pointing, but the one that where the signs would be located on, up on the top there.
This right here, this mast arm?
Yep, right there. How much? What's the distance between that sign and the actual point of turning?
So that is probably about, I would say a good 100 feet. About 100 feet, yeah.
What happens now is sort of this game of brinksmanship where there's people they want to go to Home Depot, but they got in the other lane because the other lane was going to turn left at 495 and there's a light there. Nobody wants to get stuck behind them, so they stay on the right and then they switch over. That's what currently happens now. Is that the farthest point away that masthead could go and get more people to jockey to the right place? Because the traffic in this area, as you know, is busy. And if the traffic is already stopped at a red light and they want to take a left into Home Depot, there isn't a way to jockey. Because you can't move, because you can't reconfigure, because you can't get in the other lane.
Ron, can I ask one question if I to clarify that? How far in advance of the location of the sign, given font size, given you expect somebody to be able to read that, so to first become aware that there's two lanes to choose from there?
Right, so I mean, as soon as you make, for example, the turn from the southbound ramps, you make that left turn, you'll be able to see those signs. If you added another mast arm with another set of signs, for example, the furthest you could put it, it's basically like right here at the start of that. And then one sign would block the other.
Explain that.
So you would still only see, you'd see obviously the first sign first, and the sign that's only 100 feet beyond it would essentially be blocked by the first sign that you see. So it's.
What if we split the difference?
Well, we thought this would be the best location because, like I said, you'll be able to see that as you turn from 495, from the ramps. As soon as you make that turn, you'll be able to see that sign. You'll know in advance which lane to be in. To put it closer to the stop bar, we could do that, although that would be one long mast arm. You could do that.
The off ramp of 495 is now 2 lanes too, right?
Correct.
So there's really no, on any given weekend, if traffic stays the same, there's gonna be no maneuverability, because if you're in 2 lanes, if somebody to your right and you turn, and you're gonna say, oh, I'm in the wrong lane, right? So if traffic is true to form, there's not gonna be a lot of give and take.
That's not really any different than it is today. I mean, you have a double left turn lane coming off the ramp today. And you know that if you want to go to Home Depot or Crossroads, you better be in the left lane because.
You're on the ramp there to have the sign in.
I think it's also a learned behavior too. I mean,
We talked about this last minute, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I don't believe that that will work for people that live in town. People, I go to school all the time, Mark. I just go, and I don't know enough to remember, oh, I gotta make sure I get. I mean, like, you can't. The beast, the general public, you can't rely on the fact that you just got to generically know. But you've gotta have the system in place to make it happen. Because when we don't make it happen, it doesn't always happen. That's the experience that we've got to take it away from a lot of projects in town is if you don't make it happen, it doesn't happen necessarily. Because you can't rely on that.
I mean, this gets into a little bit of a tricky discussion because it involves DOT, but if we were to install a sign on the 195 exit, for example, that says Crossroads Shopping Center, use left lane, that would solve that problem. The only thing DOT doesn't generally like to have, in particular shopping center, directional signs on state highway. Same reason why.
They have it over in Mansfield, I think, when you go to the concerts with the center, whatever it is there, as you're coming up, it's signage right there, because if you really don't know, you're gonna be in the wrong lane, there's no doubt.
They rent them out.
Yeah,
Do they have them on the? For the run?
I'm pretty sure they have them.
On there?
yeah.
I'll check tomorrow. I don't know.
But
At the end of the ramp right now, does it say 126 south one way and north or something? I go that way all the time. I can't even remember what.
Maybe one of those very small black signs.
Yeah.
If anything. I don't think it's big.
Brian's case, we gotta notify him before he leaves his house.
That's right.
But that's something we can certainly explore with DOT.
Yeah, the sooner I think the better to give him more.
I mean, that would be beneficial right now
To
too.
make a decision, because if he's in front of you, you're in trouble.
Well, I'm just a person trying, everyone is clamoring to get in the right lane as quickly as possible, and that's just you know this better than I do, nature of the.
Well, now there'll be 2 lanes.
Right,
That's, more confusing.
but when this proposal was first floated around, before it was submitted and the discussion was held, but there was, this issue was front and center, and it was anything's on the table. Like, who knows, or that's on the table. We're gonna make this work. We're gonna have dedicated lanes, and we're gonna make sure it doesn't do this. And I think at the root of all this, I think it's a bad idea to run tractor trailers through a very busy parking lot. And we're trying to make a bad idea less of a bad idea, but at the end of the day, it still makes people go, oh, you're gonna send big trucks through a very busy parking lot where there's a lot of traffic going all over the place. So, I don't know, I don't know. But thank you both.
Just had a quick question about tractor trailers stacking, leaving the shopping center. How many tractor trailers would it take stacked up to prevent customers from leaving the Home Depot parking lot here?
So I don't know the exact distance of you're probably looking at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Is that something that would be likely?
No, but based on all of our analysis, the traffic from Crossroads exit will not back up into the 4-way intersection. And that accounts for the fact that a good portion of them are trucks.
I have another question. Have you calculated in the Home Depot trucks going in that route too?
Yes.
Because I've been down there, they're already stacking, and that's before you even put this in. They've already blocked that off. I was stuck in it with Amy.
Yeah, I mean, right now, they use up both lanes.
Exactly right.
And in this scenario, they won't have to.
What's the difference? Still the same number of trucks, right?
We mean, what's the difference?
I understand that they cross over, but it's still the same number of Home Depot trucks backing up.
Well, right, so I mean, we counted, obviously, the number of Home Depot trucks making those turns today,
You saw that they were stacking,
you know.
and then, so what's the difference?
So the difference is, that one, this is a lot wider, that they don't have to take up both lanes of traffic, because right now, Home Depot truck leaves, he takes up both lanes of traffic, and you have customer traffic backing up behind them. Where in this scenario, they can go next to the truck and still make the turn.
Assuming they're all trucks, all trying to get out of the same.
And the other difference is that we can allocate a lot more green time now to the exit movement because of the added lanes that we have on Hartford Ave.
You mean green light time? And potentially right turn arrows.
Exactly. So the left turn in will happen at the same time as the right turn out. Which does happen today too, but again, it's a matter of how much green time do you give these various movements in order to make this all work. And that was one of the reasons, other than safety, which is why we added literally, 2 more lanes of traffic to Hartford Ave.
I have one more for you though.
Go ahead.
When you first came to us, you did mention that there's gonna be new technology in the lighting that it knows the traffic. So does it know when it starts to go back up enough to where the trucks are gonna actually stack up on the road that it'll stop the traffic?
So it'll know how much demand there is based on video cameras on all approaches that it sees. And if it sees that the demand is getting higher for traffic exiting crossroads, it will give more green time to that movement.
Oh, but it's after it occurs though.
Well, it's on an ongoing basis. So if it sees the same reason,
Well,
if
that's
it
what I'm
sees no
saying.
more
So
traffic,
they
then it's gonna
actually-
shut it off.
So they actually see it happening.
Correct.
and,
Correct.
You know, work.
Correct.
And if there's an unusual circumstance where that, that might be the case where a temporary queue may want to extend past that intersection, so I'm pointing and I can point with the magic hand. If there's a queue that, what we could do is potentially put a sign here that says, do not block intersection, stripe this off. You've seen that plenty of times, but big signs that do not block intersection at that corner, which is kind of a good segue into here's the stuff we're doing on, the overall plan.
Can we go back?
Can we go back 1 second?
We sure can, yeah.
Good question. That's all right. No one's taken into account the traffic for the restaurant. That left turn traffic right into the restaurant parking lot at the end. Am I correct there that that's?
Correct. So
I see the.
let me zoom in here. Is that a little bit better?
Because that would be the access.
So now you go into that access straight only, but it's really not straight only. It would be the left turn as well.
Correct. So you see the
So-
pavement markings.
So now you've got a truck there waiting to go straight. You got someone waiting to take the left into Uno's, but the traffic is backed up. So now you've backed up that entire intersection.
Well, so
which truck
what-
will stay in the right lane when you pull in?
we're maintaining the same traffic control that exists out there, which is a 3-way stop. So Uno's is stopped, this approach is stopped, the exit from the shopping center is stopped, and this has free flow traffic. So anybody who's making a left turn into Uno's is doing so without being interrupted, so they won't have to.
So they
sit there
can,
and
well,
wait.
you say that, but now we just talked about how one truck would back up over that. That would stop that left turn from being able to go into the second.
True, but then that's where we can, well, too, another good point. So we could stripe a do not block intersection box right here.
Yeah.
Provided
Few of
people
those,
of-
and
right.
Though you're asking somebody to look at that line and not block the intersection while they're waiting for the rest of the people to go out.
But you do also have the ability for Uno's traffic to enter at their secondary drive back here.
Okay, does that go away though?
No,
You don't want you don't want cars to go down there, because that's the access, that started the access road.
But for Uno's, I think having the ability to access in 2 different locations, it makes sense. That's how it's functioning today.
We don't want cars to go into that access road.
Well, we don't want to go all the way down to the new project, but I mean, to use that driveway as they do today, I don't think that's gonna be.
Is there room to add a short left turn lane?
There isn't, unfortunately. We have a significant grading issue right there.
Okay. So that's a concern, just as I see them backing up, we watch them now.
as they're pulling in and trying to take the left into Uno's, and there isn't that much traffic. That is a case where at times it does end up a free for all. If you have at lunchtime, those peak times for the restaurant. Most of the time it's not, it's just those peak times. So do you have room to make the left turn only if you go past that and only allow that as an exit out of Uno's? And allow the Uno's traffic to go up to the second exit and have a left turn only to Uno's and then loop through the parking.
That's a possibility.
That gives you a little more road width that you
Right.
have to play with. Yeah, and it keeps traffic rolling.
So you mean make this exit only?
Correct. So they would only be able to go out and either go straight or take a. Really, their goal would be to get out anyways.
Right.
So, if they go in, if you make a left turn, you're gonna keep that truck traffic flowing past them and allow them to come in and make the loop up.
That's a possibility. I mean, I don't know, Jeff, how that affects your.
I'm sorry, I was just double checking, but there's only a single lane coming in there today. Am I wrong? Can you jump back to the existing, like, we're introducing a two-lane situation at this four-way intersection, one to make a right into the shopping center, one to be through and a left.
So currently you only have a single lane.
Right. So those people waiting to make a left into Uno's there's no ability to go around them.
Correct.
It will be under this proposed condition.
Well, you've got them in a lane that you just told them that this is the straight only.
No, the
Right.
markings are left and straight. The markings before you even get into the plaza says warehouse only.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I think. Go ahead, Ron.
So I'm wondering, because all of our analysis shows that this intersection, this internal intersection here will work fine. With this design. I suppose what maybe we could do is take a look at it, say 6 months after the warehouse is open and these improvements are in, to see if a change like that needs to occur.
So, my suggestion might be to take a short time and take a look at it now at those, 11 to 1 and 4 to 6, where those peak times are for that restaurant. That's just one place. That's a short spot, and I understand that, but that's a congestion. I don't know when you look over a long period of time or just overall. Really, it's a short window, but it's a very isolated window that could create a severe backup.
But during those lunchtime hours, presumably the warehouse development won't generate a lot of traffic either. So it's not like the AM and PM rush hour. So during those times, you probably never have a condition where traffic could back up from the exit. I mean, again, I'm a little concerned about, I don't know how long the shopping center has been around, probably a good 25 years, 30 years. That every Uno's customer probably enters that way now, and you make this into an exit only, all of a sudden, you're gonna have a lot of people going the wrong way.
You're changing the whole intersection anyway, so.
Well.
Brian's can't do it, 95.
Just put it
I
out.
live in South Bellingham. I go to the one in Redmond. And when I'm going there, I'll make sure there's a sign, whether or not. I have a question. And I don't mean to have everything spin off of Pizzeria Uno. Here's my concern. I think some people that want to go to Pizzeria Uno, they give up the fight, pull into the parking lot in front of Home Depot and park at the end spots and walk over. You mentioned you have technology that sort of controls the lights and sort of controls the traffic. Many years ago, in one of the colleges I worked on, we put in sensors in the road before crosswalks. I lit the crosswalk up so people knew a crosswalk was there. Is there anything we can do to protect those people that are crossing over from the extreme end of the Home Depot parking lot onto Pizzeria Uno?
the best thing you could do at that location is what's called a rapid rectangular flashing beacon. I don't know if you have any of those in town right now. But it's
Trail,
On Center Street.
Center Street, we do have the Center Trail where they push the walk button.
Yep.
And the light flashes.
like a strobe light.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That may be one thing we might want to consider to reduce the chance of a pedestrian getting hit by a vehicle. And obviously those strobe lights would go silent probably, or go blind. If this is a warehouse with 24 operations. You know, it won't be going on if people aren't there. But if you just keep that in the back of your mind.
Okay.
I think we're making some headway here.
Mhm.
I think we're getting closer. I don't think we're quite there. I think a little more fine tuning.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
just ask one or two? Can I deep dive a little bit more on the floor and decor entrance here? So I know that this comes down floor and decor. and all
Want to bring up an aerial for that?
No, that's fine.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So the concern was that the new building here, you'd have trucks coming out or large amounts going up that way. I see, you know, this is the exit now for floor and decor, cutting across the lanes, you know, at least one lane if they're going down 495. It also, I guess my question is it looks like we've changed the angle here to increase the room that's here.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that, and I guess this is my question is that, you know, this was done to keep trucks from coming out and going out the outback way. That way. And a truck with the extra room here. I've seen some pretty good stuff.
Right.
And a truck with that extra room, make that turn and come down anyway.
Yes, yes,
So
and
that's-
we've looked into that, to design a way to prevent that from happening.
Yeah,
Is,
that was our whole point last time. was we
I know.
didn't want trucks coming out into.
one point.
Yeah, that's
Well, many.
my point.
Right.
My point.
But no, I did look into that, and unfortunately, there's no way you can, even under existing conditions, if you had that same median there,
Yeah.
they would be able to make it. It's not, this extra widening isn't now allowing that, even under existing conditions, the truck could make that turn. Because think about it, the amount of room that a truck needs to make the left out of
Yeah,
the loading area
yeah.
is a lot more room than a truck needs to almost go straight through.
I know, but the original concern, and I think that's why this was added, is because we didn't want trucks coming down behind more decor and going back out back and then heading down that
So,
way.
and
So
let me
This
actually,
kind of defeats that whole concept, right?
well, if we go to the overall area though for a second, you think about, I mean, I honestly don't think that tractor trailer trucks are gonna make that movement, because they'd be making a left, coming around behind back here where loading activity occurs. They'd be in the way of potentially a truck that's sitting there that and won't be able to get by, possibly.
It's pretty wide back.
Then they have to make this right and then come out onto North Main Street, as opposed to just staying here, making a left, and making the left. I mean, keep in mind, this is now all much wider road, many more lanes, advanced traffic control signal system everywhere at all of these 5 intersections. So traffic is gonna flow a heck of a lot better than it does today. So I just don't see somebody doing that. I mean, and even if they do, it's a loading area today that's used to truck traffic. So.
Well, the concern was the truck traffic coming down here.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden you've taken all this truck traffic that's coming out of here and out of here. Instead of going out to 495, now you're going down North Main Street.
Well, they're going on those main streets because they have a destination now. They wouldn't use North Main Street. I mean, where are they gonna go if their destination ultimately is 495?
Well, I don't. They go to the center of town right now.
But yeah, but that's because I mean,
99.
maybe they're on Depot Street, warehouses that are going through the center of town. I mean, I don't.
They're going 126 south.
or they're going 126 south, but I mean, again, they're not going that, they're not doing that to get on 485. I mean, that would be
No,
silly.
they're heading to Rhode Island down through 99 out, 290. 290.
But I mean, the thing is, if they're gonna use North Main Street, they're gonna come out at the light and make a left and make another left. And then they'll be on North Main Street, no differently than cutting in behind the loading docks here. I mean, if their destination is somewhere along North Main Street for 126 south, then that's how they're gonna go. I mean, we expect the vast majority of the trucks to use 195. But will there be an occasional try? Again, this in large part depends on what the ultimate end user is. You know, if it's if it's a regional warehouse distribution center, they're gonna go to 195. If it's a smaller flex
Manufacturing residence or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Cars doing that.
delivering furniture, I mean, to somebody's house, then they'll use North Main Street.
I jump up to the public, I know.
That's me.
Yes, that is you.
Of all the
Well,
meetings,
if
it
it
has
is-
the biggest impact in town. It's the biggest building ever constructed in Bellingham. I'm the only resident here. I find that kind of odd, but I guess it's your fault because you kind of got me involved here in planning board issues, but, the way I look at the whole scope of the project in general, I think it's a bad idea. I mean, you're mixing big trucks with residential traffic, first of all. And I live on Sagamore, across the street, for those who don't know me. And so I've been on Sagamore since, '04. So there's nobody in this room that travels that road more than I have over the last 20 years. So I've seen it all in terms of good drivers, bad drivers, and people running lights and so forth. So I know on a good day now, it's bad. So how many questions can I ask? I got a lot.
You're the only one, so does.
I'm asking all the questions for everybody. Starting, getting off the highway. From the ramp, turning in, that's not a very long distance. So if I'm not familiar with the area, I'm going to Home Depot, I could easily be in the wrong lane, getting off the ramp, I gotta make a crossover. If I have to stay in the right lane and I want to go to Uno's, I gotta cross back over again. You've already instructed us turning into the plaza, stay to the right. But then somehow magically you're able to take a left to go over to Uno's. I don't know how you're gonna kind of do that. Another concern I have is when the trucks come out from behind the building to go through the left cutout. I call it Dennis's left turn because I know he likes to make it turn behind the building. But what's gonna stop a truck from blocking 2 lanes of traffic to make that little jog in the cutout? I see that being a major problem.
You point out what you're talking about.
One more question.
No, you point out.
You mean, yes.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
So if a truck's coming from behind, they gotta cross 2 lanes of traffic. If there's cars exiting and trucks exiting already, when it's a busy day, that guy's inevitably gonna block the lanes of traffic until he gets a little break to cut through.
Well, that's really not any different than what happens today. It's exactly. the
Well,
same
except you're
situation.
adding to the traffic flow
Well, sure.
considerably.
Sure, we're
And a
adding,
truck takes up 3 car spaces.
we're adding to the traffic flow, but we're also making substantial improvements to make this whole corridor work a lot better than it does today. I mean, that's the whole point of it. So that at the end of the day, things actually work better than they do
No,
today.
I understand what you're saying. I just think you're wrong.
Okay. I have no response to that.
Thank you.
I have one more question, and it's nice to see the chief here, because I never usually see you at the meetings. But this is all well and good under normal, slow and busy days. You've already talked about it twice tonight, is what happens if there's a fire. And now, you've got, whether it be warehouse traffic or office space traffic, trying to get through that fund. Sorry, that's all I got.
That's when the loud noises on the truck come in and play.
Oh, one more thing. Having lived in that neighborhood there, I can tell you every day now, people circumvent the light by pulling into Rawson and making a U-turn every day. And once this all goes through, maybe we can get a sign that says no U-turn or something, police access or something.
So they're coming up Hartford Ave, turning into Rawson and coming and turning, taking a right?
No, it goes straight across the Home Depot.
Oh, okay.
And don't ask me
So
why.
rather than staying in the left lane, they take the right. Cause that left lane backs up.
Or they missed the left.
It's him stuck in that lane.
Yeah, I see it every day. I mean, I could go on all day about the things I've seen in that corridor. But it's bad, and it's not, like I said before, I think the bigger challenge for everybody is there's not a lot of space between Rawson and the off-ramp.
I'm just thinking out of the box there, but just in case Bill, this thing really got something, you may want to put down the road going to the warehouse, a turnaround. So people can go back that don't navigate this.
Oh, that's,
It, because you're gonna be backed up with idiots, I think, blocking your traffic. So if you made it so they could come back around and
Non-resident.
re-navigate it, for Brian, you know, that's all I'm saying.
I'll get back to it. About a month ago, I asked for an idiot thing at the end, close to, Home Depot, where it was like an exit where you realized I'm mixed in with warehouse traffic, I can get out. We've now designed it, so that's not there, which I'm fine with, because it makes the flow go better. If we have these people to get in the wrong lane, there has to be a mechanism that makes it easy to turn around for them. Just to go back, because it is gonna happen. It may only happen a few times per person.
I would imagine the first opportunity that they'll do that is, in the Home Depot loading area back here. That they pull in there, take a 3-point turn and come back out again.
You can't get down that road, there's too much stock in the road.
Now, the part that you did,
That's not gonna work.
I mean, once you get off the image, here, and I can bring up a site plan if you want to see it. You're gonna enter the warehouse part of the experience.
yes,
There's a parking lot, it's just kind of off in the lower right corner of this image.
Yep.
That would provide easy ability to turn around, circle out and go back.
that's fine.
Did you prefer the right in only off of the roadway into the Home Depot parking lot?
I don't know, sir. If I don't know.
Because I think we'd be happy to provide
I mean,
that.
that
Really direct us
basically
to block that off.
At the
I understand that was a good idea. I have no problem with having verbal turn, a small roundabout in front of the warehouse. So they can just turn around and go back out.
Get into the Home Depot parking lot.
I want to keep Home Depot as uncongested as possible.
roundabout would have to be pretty large
Down.
because of the truck.
They don't do around it, you know.
But I mean, keeping this right in only at, you know, where the current access is. Might not be a bad idea,
Can you show me where that would be here?
right here.
The existing curb cut is today.
Right, so there's an existing opening right here. If we make that just a right in only,
Okay,
That encourages people not to follow the lane. That becomes the shortcut. That's the shortcut. If you remember, I don't remember.
my feeling, I'm gonna go back, if they make a mistake, it's on them.
and they'll never make it again.
Exactly, that's why.
That's my feeling. I've thought the other way.
It's not a safety issue.
No, it's not.
Right. So maybe, Austin can explain some of the rest of the,
Sure.
improvements there.
It's not quite as interesting or fun as the stuff Ron talked about. But this is kind of a continued part of our discussion with like, how do we further isolate traffic from the warehouse and Home Depot and consolidate and then just improve that whole experience. Well, and then also one of the benefits of that too is we talked about how do we make the landscaping enhanced, right? So the island that's there, this kind of long green island now. Right now, it's very narrow. It's
Correct.
3 feet wide, maybe.
If that,
Yeah, if that. This is approaching 20 feet wide.
okay,
And so it affords us the opportunity to enhance it. Either allow the vegetation that's in there now, which has been strategically and consistently maintained, to grow. Because the stuff that's in there has the ability to grow. It just, we don't let it because there's not room to do it. We can let that grow and establish more. And then supplement it strategically to enhance that and make that whole island, more vegetated. It really provides that, we were talking about visual abatement too. You don't want to drive in and feel like you're in a parking lot. So having an island that's not nearly 20 feet wide makes you feel like you're not driving into a parking lot. It's almost boulevardy, right? The existing travel lane or this driveway here that I'm tracing, right now it's just shy of 50 feet wide. We're going to narrow that, taper that down to about 36 feet wide.
okay.
So that, that's where you're getting the extra 14, 15 feet out, is that reduction in the driveway. We've made sure it's navigable. You can, 18-wheelers or larger vehicles can pass each other going each direction without having to travel in each lane. And then we closed off the entrance that we were just talking about, or kind of contemplating for that, that potential right in, which we don't seem to like. And then down here where the Home Depot lumber canopy is, we've made this driveway really functional from an operations perspective. It's just to service the back corridor for loading operations as they function today. It's not intended to be, that strongly discourage and frankly almost prohibit people wanting to short circuit and navigate around there and trying to be cute about how they're going to go through there. So that driveway is really just intended to accommodate delivery vehicles that are operating for Home Depot expressly. And we've closed off that curb cut and kind of cleaned up how all this functions right now. And then internally, you see a couple of islands in here. We've kind of cleaned up how that's functioning. So if you come in here with a trailer, as Ron mentioned, or you have a slightly bigger vehicle, fire apparatus for that matter, the turning movements here are facilitated, because this becomes a bit more of an important route now that there aren't multiple ways to get in and out of the Home Depot parking lot. But it's still very much consolidated internal to the Home Depot parking lot. So it feels very consistent with Home Depot and not part of anything else. It's kind of become isolated and compartmentalized, a bit more tighter. So, in all of those aspects, we feel pretty good about. It's going to be better looking. It's going to function better. It's going to consolidate the parking lot. And then it defines the access in a much more controlled manner.
Can I ask a question about the access?
Of course, yeah.
So truck coming up from the new warehouse, is there enough room in this corner here to come down and go behind Home Depot and come out the other way again?
Theoretically, we've designed that geometry.
Yeah.
To really discourage that and almost make it impossible to do, because we don't want people from the warehouse trying to get behind Home Depot, navigate through all that stuff, and then sneak out to North Main Street.
I noticed you made it a curve here. If that was straight out, then you couldn't have people coming this way and then cutting back, right?
We teed that in so that it's a perpendicular approach to get a better, cleaner line of sight in there, as opposed to coming in at an angle. So if somebody, for whatever reason, just wanted to make, it could be a fire truck for that matter, wanted to take a right and get down to the thing, they could.
Well, your Home Depot people are coming back here to get to your seasonal area right now, right?
Or there's a loading dock right here. This is their primary loading dock right here.
Right there. So they're
Yeah.
they're coming down here anyway, right now.
They come down in, they
Back
pull
around.
forward, and they back in. That's really hard to do, that's really weird. There's like a delay on it, so coming back, they back into here, they pull down, back in, and then similarly.
And then this is where when I say seasonal, this is the season, what I'm calling seasonal, but this is where all this stuff is going in here. That's. But I guess the concern would be, again, trucks coming out of the new warehouse, cutting through here and then out back the way.
Yeah, I can refine this geometry to make that even more challenging. Right now, it's almost impossible for that truck to make that. And they're almost taking this angle of turn here is over 90 degrees. It's almost backwards.
So they would almost have to check.
I'm sorry?
They would almost have to check.
You have to really articulate that trailer. So I can refine that to make that even harder to do. Right now, it's very hard to do and almost impossible.
I don't think a WB67
Yeah.
can make.
They try. Look, I can try to get out that window right now, so it would be unfortunate if I did.
Yeah, but if you're gonna sharpen that one, that would be.
I can tighten that up.
Can I ask a question? How
What
much?
what if I said no? Would you ask it anyway?
Are you a Buffalo Bill fan? No.
You saw that, didn't you? I forgot to take that off. All right, came in there.
I'm a Celtics fan, so I'm watching the block out.
I am too. I was kind of disappointed with the move we made last night, but we'll talk about that.
If I'm a truck driver going to Home Depot to make a delivery, the signage on Hartford Avenue is gonna say what? Shopping center and warehouse. Well, I'm a truck driver, I'm not going to the warehouse. I wanna make a delivery to Home Depot. I'm gonna cut through the parking. How do we get them?
Warehouse and
Yeah.
Home Depot deliveries on the sign. Whatever words you want on the sign, we'll put on. the sign.
Do you follow me?
I do. And we'll add the appropriate direction.
I think we're gonna have, this side's getting bigger. But I wanna keep as much truck traffic out of the parking lot as possible. And by just saying warehouse, and people who have been coming here for years, making deliveries, are gonna be confused and think they have to go through the parking lot, which is the last thing.
Sure. Yeah, we
City,
can.
they're using it now anyway, aren't they? This whole area is being used as outside selling area, right? During just different parts of the year.
We're trying to control it. We're addressing that internally.
I just want to see it, try to nail as much as we can down, because I don't know what's going in the warehouse. We've got broken up into 15 different, industries in there, how much traffic, what type of traffic, that's what I'm trying to say, it's hard to capture it all when you don't know.
Well, but we're analyzing the worst case situation, which is the maximum number of trucks.
So
That's what
that's
we're analyzing.
going after truck.
Pardon me?
You're going after just nothing but the biggest thing we can get is the truck.
Well, we're
The flow
analyzing,
and the traffic and everything else, so if we came down to where a lot of it tapered off into vehicles, it'd be a much easier flow.
and that is going to depend on the ultimate end user, but for the purpose of all of our analysis and design, what we've assumed is over.
Okay.
That's right.
What we do internally with our own peer review, we look at high yield warehouse, maximum volume. And anything less than that is great. We've done it on the 3 warehouses we've permitted in the past couple of years. So, I think we're in agreement on that we look at this with one large warehouse. Maxing it out for a warehouse. Anything less than that, you can have less vehicles, truck vehicles, potentially more passenger vehicles, which is not a bad thing.
Necessarily, yeah.
So I have a quick question. Yeah, you've now cut off that left side of that building. Am I correct there from the parking lot around Home Depot? So where the
This
green
right here?
space goes down?
Yeah.
No,
Okay, no, so
you
what-
haven't cut it off. You can make a right and go down to the end of that island, correct? Austin?
I'm not following. the
So,
question.
so if I'm
right,
in the parking lot with the fire truck coming across the front of the building, can I get around to the back of?
get
that?
around this way, you can get around this
Nope.
way.
No,
Onto the-
he's making a right,
Taking a right.
after the lumber door. And we were supposed to be able to.
Do this.
Right, it's
Oh.
already there, it's throughway.
Yeah, no, you won't be able to make that move anymore.
Okay, so we need to make that move. We need to have access to all around, whether it's a gate, it doesn't have to be a permanent, it could be a
No, you
gate.
can't, you can do that.
You can, it's just shadow.
Yeah, so there's a no blocking, you can kind of see where.
That green extends into an existing landscape strip that comes down.
Oh, currently.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you can make that,
You have 2 side-by-side travel ways there. One will be accessed out to the new warehouse roadway. The other will be available to you to make the right.
okay, so right now, the road,
This driveway stays and the access, if you came around in front of this lumber canopy,
yep,
you came here. You could take this right and
Okay,
still
and I
drive
could-
parallel to the building. Whereas right now, this is kind of the lumber side, Home Depot got fencing out there and stuff.
yeah,
There's an existing landscape island here that kind of
Correct.
corrals those 2
Yeah.
things. there's a driveway between it and the building, and that driveway will stay, and you will be able to access
Okay.
it from the front.
So we will be able, okay, that, we just need to have that,
Yeah,
ability to get around
that
that.
stays, that stays.
Because when you had it blown up, it looked like it just disappeared.
Yeah,
It's
the
shadow,
notes.
yeah, the wording.
The Google Earth image that.
Okay, as long as we have access around that
Like
building.
it till today. Now you're on the bus.
So it's.
We talked about
right?
technology a couple of times.
Yeah,
The
we
trucks?
currently, well, we could come in the back way as well, but we won't be able to exit out there. So if we came in from the North Main Street side, and came behind the building, you have to be able to get out that side. So generally, we would be coming in backwards. We come in from the garden center, heading north.
Right.
And then, but we've got to be able to get out. They have to allow us that.
The thing is, we're guessing the people. Trucks or.
Right, well, for this, we go in the front. You have to go to the front because that's where everything is set up, the main entrance. But the back of the building is where we would tie into the sprinkler system. But being able to get out of there, to have that 360 degrees.
Sure, it's been mentioned, but why can't there be an access road to North Main Street? I just can't remember why there was no road put there.
I'm sorry,
Why can't there be an access road of some sort, even if it's a fire exit, for the warehouse to North Main Street?
I think we want to check traffic on this, please.
we want to prevent as much truck traffic on that
Fire
basis.
access, fire lane of some sort. I mean, an emergency evacuation, fire. That guy's gonna go all the way through people traffic, pedestrians.
So what,
The conservation.
yeah, I will still come up. North Main and go into that. Into that. You know, for that
Pretty kind of
access,
space right now back there.
yeah. We're not gonna, we're just looking at, I'm just looking at access at Home Depot. The new warehouse will be the access road, just like the flow of traffic.
There will be an extension on, as you come into the shopping center to take you behind everything to the, warehouse. So there will be a road that takes you back there. We're trying to prevent truck traffic at this point from using it. But in the event of an emergency, that could be used, if I'm not mistaken, for, fire truck.
Where is it?
Part of the new development.
It's part of the new development.
All these improvements to the Crossroads Shopping Center are in to accommodate the actual applications before the planning board, which is for development behind Home Depot. That's the road that you see leaving in the lower right-hand corner of the plan. That's the proposed road back to.
Right, right.
How are we preventing trucks from entering on North Main Street? And if one does squeeze in through there, how are they gonna navigate these changes to kind of escape?
If the truck, so the question, is, they come off of North Main.
Yep.
They come over. from
They're gonna enter, yep,
And they try to get to the industrial.
they do get in there, which we don't want them to get in there, what do they then do?
That was the whole point of us doing this, was to make that not navigable for trucks, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be facetious when I say that, but if they come in there and get in. I mean, the only recourse really is, I don't think they can make it, you're kind of. Trying to swing in through here and come back out, or
Or go behind Florida.
go behind floor and decor if they realize that's how they're gonna get out, that's the loading corridor now. If they get past that, our whole purpose of this exercise was to.
Is it worth signage on North Main Street that says no truck
We
entrance?
can't, but I think that's also used to get them, that driveway is used, service floor and decor and party
Say
city.
no truck access for the new warehouse?
Probably
That's
gives,
gonna be a little confusing, I think. If you allow some trucks but not others. I mean, I think ultimately, it's an intent with their truck drivers, they're gonna know how to access. their
And
own
that
building.
got to a point, I apologize for interrupting your answer. You mentioned a few times technology. We need to take advantage of the technology So truck drivers know how to get to this. How do we do that? Through GPS?
Well, Google Maps, Waze, any of these will direct them to the main entrance because you won't physically be able to get to it from North Main Street.
I thought we had prior discussions about creating something on North Main Street to prevent trucks from entering.
I think you can't do that because of the way Floor and Decor and Party City still rely on that driveway. to access the building.
They make deliveries that way.
That's.
You could almost put a sign at the corner of Floor and Decor, you know, the corner, if they were delivering to the back of Floor and Decor. You could probably put a sign at the corner there saying no tractor trailers, you know.
Yeah, there's
Left turn, no left turn.
You mean like,
No left turn.
like in here somewhere?
Yes,
Yes,
no tractor trailers, no
To
left turn.
Home Depot trucks.
Home Depot trucks sometimes go that way for the lumber part of the building.
Right.
but we're gonna try to address that.
Yeah, the big tractor trailers, that's pretty hard to navigate around that.
Especially the garden center, because the garden center is loaded up.
There's too many
with
shrubs in the
Oh,
way,
yeah.
you ain't getting around that. Flowers and everything else. But the box trucks do.
stuff. Well, they deliver the flowers right to that spot too.
Yeah.
You know, if there are no tractor trailer trucks coming in from North Main Street using or going to Home Depot, then you could very easily post that sign.
That's
that
exactly right, exactly.
no tractor trailers beyond this point.
Beyond this point, right?
One outline question.
You'd be a crazy.
I think they are, Ron.
Are they?
And I think they have the ability to today. If we pose a restriction on something like that. I think that-
If they're doing that, then we can.
I think once we get with Home Depot too, with our prior conversation, to try to organize it a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
Snow storage in the parking lot. How is that addressed right now?
Across from the parking lot, I assume.
Yes,
Stored in remote locations within the parking lot.
okay, okay,
even truck it out when it gets.
When it gets
Yeah.
too
I've
much,
seen
we
it broken.
have had to, we try not to, but.
any other comments from the board or the audience? Paul, you're the audience.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Not at this time, I said my speech.
Okay. What I'd like to do is, make a motion and continue this to August 10th. We've got a lot to discuss. We can exchange comments and try to be back here on the 10th.
Is there a summary of?
That's what I was gonna ask. Is there a way for us, just before we depart, just do a very quick recap? Just, I wanna make sure that when we come back here, we have a focused set of comments. I'm taking very good notes, but I wanted to make sure that we have clear purpose and direction on any refinements that we're making here from the board, just to make sure we.
Did we receive this prior to the meeting?
I don't know that I emailed it over, no.
It'll be helpful, I mean, looking at it like this now.
Yeah, of course. You can email it before. Sure, yeah.
That would be great.
Want to go over your list? Or do you want to exchange a list tomorrow?
How about we, Ron and I just
Tonight?
found some comments real quick and
That'd
then,
be great.
yeah, so.
Fine.
So what we talked about and. Jump in if you want.
I've
You wanna
always
start with
loved
your
the
intersection?
idea.
You wanna start with your intersection?
Sure, I'll start with what I have, but, we have the overhead signs, shopping center, arrow, and add-on only under that. Same thing with the warehouse, traffic, arrow, and then only.
We have to add another, it's not the warehouse, home deliveries. I think of the verbiage we decided to make.
But you mean for Home Depot?
for Home Depot.
Yeah, I was thinking actually,
No, exactly.
oh, that's fine. I can use this. So what I'm thinking is we have this sign right here that's posted just after the intersection that says warehouse traffic only, and then underneath that, no access to shopping center. What I'm thinking is to change this sign to say warehouse traffic and Home Depot deliveries only.
Fine.
And not put that on the overhead sign. Because I think that's, Home Depot traffic will be in the correct lane already, because that's what they're doing today. And then when they get to here, they see the sign right there that says, oh yeah, Home Depot deliveries.
Why would you put that on the masthead sign?
Too much information on a big sign like it's too much to read, a short amount of time.
Plenty of space.
For the wording that we have.
The words are what.
That second sign, shipping and receiving, maybe.
Down here.
Yeah.
I think generally the trucks are doing that now.
I think it's a little too late.
I think the trucks are already doing that now. I don't think that's a change in their,
Exactly.
that's not a change in what they do.
So. Chief is absolutely correct. That's what they're doing today. So why would they change?
Okay,
it?
that's fine.
Right. But when we can add the wording that yes, Home Depot deliveries as well.
I just don't want to make it confusing.
Right. Right.
Have them start doing something new.
Because I don't want them, Home Depot delivery drivers all of them saying, oh, warehouse traffic only, you mean I can't go down here? So, yeah.
We're doing a public service here by this. Once you get used to this, you're gonna be a much better driver. After you navigate this.
That's the intent then.
So we're gonna add, we look into adding, the flashing beacons, for the crosswalk.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna stripe and sign the intersection for do not block, right?
Sorry?
We're gonna add striping and signage at that intersection for do not block.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what I.
That was the extent of it, yeah, and then as we kind of proceeded further in here. I was gonna do some further refinement of this geometry to further discourage or really frankly prevent the left in from that.
So that's the list of,
Amy, anything else to discuss? Or any other board members taking any notes?
I think that's it, but I think I would like to see some dialogue with Home Depot and WS to figure out that area that we just referenced and also at the top, because currently what's happening is there are trucks going down, like the deputy chief said, and I think we need to, you can reach out to Home Depot and maybe we can come up with something to work parallel to address that.
Then I would encourage you to keep thinking about this, because this, as it is right now, it still makes me go, and so these are the topics that we've discussed tonight, but we are not engineers. We're not designers. And if you can make this, right now, I don't want to question this. I don't. So keep working on this, please. But we're not giving you a definitive checkbox of things to, okay, so we did this, now they're happy, because I don't think that's the case. I was speaking to me.
How do we, and I'm not questioning you, but I just want to make sure, because I don't want to go back into the laboratory, so to speak.
I don't know.
No, I know you don't, and I'm not suggesting that we're gonna all figure it out right now, but I'm trying to be respectful to the board's time as much as ours. I don't want to come back and say, what do you think now? And then I get that this is collaborative, but I think we're starting to narrow the focus, and I want to make sure we narrow the focus. Don't come back in and we're like, let's try again. And then we're just kind of scrapping the whole thing. I don't think we're doing that here, but I think we're getting close. I'm not objective, but I think we're getting close, and I want to make sure that we're all focused on like, hey, this is improved. I don't want to come back and say, yeah, this missed the mark again. Let's try it again. Come back and tell us what you think, and then we'll try to,
we do have 2 engineers, 2 designers, and a peer review that's being performed on behalf of the board. Looking at this as well, so there are informed opinions.
I just have to think there's gotta be a better way to do this. There just has to be a better way. And I'm not trying to be, you put a lot of work and effort and thought into this, and I know there's limitations. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your effort, and you are very collaborative, right? Thank you. But I still start with the premise of, oh, this is really not a good idea, and it's still not to the point of comfort for me that running these trucks through this very busy parking lot, through this very busy quarter of traffic, and I understand there's improvements, is a good idea. You know what I mean? So you have to make me comfortable. I'm not there yet. So I don't know what to tell, but I'm not comfortable. Not. I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable, but
We've
This is
effectively
definitely the
created
right direction.
a street through here that has a single entrance into the shopping center at the four-way intersection. So it's a street with a four-way intersection in it. They get you into get you to Uno or get you into the rest of the shopping center. And then a road that continues down to so think of this as a town street, signal.
To his point though, we were talking about one project and this is talking about one project. We had one road going out to Hartford Avenue where we weren't intermingling the other adjacent neighbor in Depot parking lot. It'd be a lot cleaner, a lot more comfortable. So we're trying to work through this and trying to combine it. And we are, I personally see improvement here, but I having trucks mix with cars on the same road and that whole upper section by Uno's and that stuff. It's a challenge now and it'll be a challenge. It's going to be more of a challenge later. So that's why we're just saying, you know, this isn't a checklist thing. This is, let's continue to try to improve this as we go. I don't know if I've made it muddier or not, but I'm feeling similarly.
I have a question for you. This only works if Hartford Avenue DOT approves their project.
Hartford Avenue only happens if this.
Well, this doesn't work, so Hartford Avenue, for some reason, doesn't come up with the funding or like a fall short, this doesn't go in. This doesn't happen, right? No new trips, correct?
I think that equation works in the inverse too. Right now, I'm not suggesting this to be adversarial, but the guy sitting over here is writing a very big check that's going to 126 too. So part of what's
And
influencing
the
Hartford
economic
Avenue.
development that allowed the town to pursue and maybe Jim can speak to this, but the partial funding for the roadway improvements are MassWorks grants that relies upon the economic development of this project.
So they will go hand in hand.
They're kind of.
This will happen if they go hand in hand,
Right.
100% funded.
Right.
And that's the second time you said that. Thank you for confirming that.
Is it possible? We have a list of items that we discussed this evening. Can we exchange information on that? Let's say by the 13th of July. Have us respond with a legal technicality, so we're not breaking the open meeting law. Get our comments, and then get our comments back to WS prior to the 13th.
What do you mean? I'm not following you, what you're thinking with that.
Right now, the meeting of the 10th is 2 months away.
August, yes.
So I think we have time to have them answer some of our questions. Get the answers back to us.
And why wouldn't they provide it to our peer review?
That'd be
And then
fine.
that way, I mean, that you can do, it just would expedite the board having to meet, you could work with BSC. And
That's
then
fine.
I'm getting closer to doing something.
Yeah, I think I want to start with, this board's been very collaborative, and I appreciate it. I wasn't implying at all that it hasn't.
I wasn't taking it that way.
But, and I think, in terms of communication, because I think what you're getting at, and I'm inferring, but I think what you're getting at is you'd like for the board to be able to provide feedback on how we send plans in, to whatever form that is. Hey, we think we've got this improved. The board individually wants to look at that and provide feedback. So when we get to the 10th, it's.
Can't really do
Or
that.
our peer reviewer can do it.
I think the peer review can do it.
The peer reviewer can do it.
Peer review we can, but we can't have everybody.
That's fine.
sitting in, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
careful.
When I have seen the attorney here, right, obviously, but but I have seen if that happens, it can't be on like a group email chain because then that violates open meeting law. It
Correct.
could be an individual comment comes to you individually and that gets forwarded, but it can't be like this, it kind of gets muddy there, so.
I'm not comfortable doing that because with this project is very big.
Mhm.
And to get everybody's opinions one at a time, to then distribute them to you one at a time,
Yeah. it's-
I think that's a
Okay.
lot to ask.
How's that work? Can we go through
Let me ask you a
BSC?
I think it would be go through BSC or consultant, and you can also talk to Jim, and then I think that those talks could happen, and then with those parties, they could make a recommendation to the board to look at.
We've already had a lot of meetings tonight. I don't mind,
I can't market it without.
doing this again in, what's on our agenda?
July 13th, we have the Snat Trail, and then we're gonna have another hearing, a brand new one for Zero Maple. And I believe that's it.
What if we put them on the 13th?
We could do the 13th.
Okay.
That's, I mean,
What I'd
that's
like to do,
soon.
Jim, do you agree?
I'm not gonna be here, but it's fine.
Yeah, that might-
13th of July.
Honestly, that might be a little too soon, but you know, we could certainly make it work if both parties want to do that.
Yeah, Jeff's gonna make me go back to the office and start drawing it now, so I'm okay with the 13th, if the board's okay with the 13th.
That works.
I'm not gonna.
What's your feeling?
Well, I mean, I think we can, I can chat with their team and see what our compare notes and lists and see where we are. I mean, if anything, if the 13th ends up being too soon, it's just a simple continuation.
Okay.
So really do that.
Let's continue to the 13th, and if we can make.
If maybe we can move it
Yeah,
out.
move it out, yeah.
That's a month away.
There's an extension of the decision as well. That's coming up July 27th, so we could do that on the
Okay.
13th, or we could do it right, knowing that we may continue.
I'd like to do it tonight. I'd entertain a motion to extend the deadline decision to September 14th.
Is there any reason why we don't push this out like several months? Instead of going 3-4 months.
Want to go to
September. This is gonna go on for, how long do you expect to be in front of us? I mean,
This is
several
the
months.
lone remaining issue,
This is the lone remaining
as
issue.
far as we're aware. We've been back and forth with peer review responses, and the rest of the plan has been
And the other board you're fine with is the conservation and stuff
continuing
like that.
to make progress with conservation, yeah.
Okay.
Certainly a decision from planning board would help with conservation, or somebody has to go first.
We should go together actually, right?
Mhm.
Either way.
I would feel September 14th.
That's fine. That's fine.
I entertain a motion.
The ability.
Is that agreeable?
Diesel for that. Has to be.
Thank you. All in favor? Extend the deadline. September 14th, please. signify by saying aye.
Yeah, God.
That motion passes unanimously. Also entertain a motion.
1 minute, do a Rob on here, just if
Rob?
he wants to comment.
Do you have any comments?
Who's the guy in the far right?
Push back a bit. Hey. Hey, Bill, can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right, sorry. I'm coming kind of late to the party, but I have no additional comments. Well, actually, just a point of clarification. So you're saying that the planning board you guys want to look at each other's notes, and also, is it going back to peer review?
No, it's not.
Okay,
No.
I didn't know what the decision was,
What
so.
we're gonna do is have a meeting on the 13th of July.
Okay, nope,
What's the
I have
change
no,
we discussed tonight?
yep, I have no additional comments.
So is that a vote in favor?
We can vote, so
Yes. Okay.
we're gonna continue till July 13th.
Yep. It may be a long night again.
Who made the motion, Brian?
Brian, second by Dennis.
Okay,
If you could, before, if you change everything, get us the plan prior to the meeting to, can have a more informed conversation.
Of course.
that would mean, I mean, typically what we're saying is 2 weeks. So, you know, we're looking at July. That's putting you guys, it is putting you guys under the gun for
We'll do
getting
the
that
best we
to
can.
us. Okay,
We'll send you a cat.
okay.
Yeah.
If you could send us what you shared to tonight, that way I can have that too, that would be great.
I'll do that in the morning.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Have a
night.
long evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Stop there, the minutes. I think you have 2 sets, one was from May 11th and then one was from the 25th.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
I move to approve the May minutes.
May
Both
11th.
sets? Are you okay, Brian, with both sets or
I'm
one?
okay with both.
Okay.
Hold on, I wanna look at something on May 11th.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Good night, thank you.
Okay,
You okay? Okay, a motion to approve the minutes for May 11th and May 25th.
Yes.
Okay,
all in favor, please signify by saying
Aye.
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 Rob?
Aye.
Motion to, don't take too long to read them. The minutes from, the 25th.
we did both, so we're
No,
good.
legally, we can't do that.
We can do the 11th and we can do one for the 25th.
That'd be separate motions.
Nope, you can do, if you're approving the minutes of the 11th and then the minutes of the
Okay, that's
25th,
fine,
as
all right.
long as you put it in the minutes the
All
next time around, we're good.
We get a motion to adjourn.
Jim, thank you.
Thank you, Rob, thank you.
Get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much.